Get 'em Jimmy, where low shack at? The bottle's getting nippy up the crack and we stacking chips. All of it's what I want, plus money winners, that's what I'm on. You can say I'm gone, I prefer elevated pub sports radio. Time to get educated, get produced, leave the juice, letting loose with so much abuse that the bookies wanna call a truce. They getting slaughtered, can't forget Jeff and low baggers in the chat. That's a lethal weapon, 'cause we be pubbing.
What up, cappers, gamblers, punters, hustlers, low baggers? Happy Friday, November 25th to all of you. Thank you for watching Betting with the Bag right here on Pub Sports Radio. I hope you all had a wonderful Thanksgiving. We have an absolutely enormous card for us to attack. We are going to start with college football because we got college football popping off in less than an hour. It is great to see all of you guys. Isaiah B., Dave Beckett, Viper, NB, MDR24. Yes, the Avs-Preds game postponed due to a water main break at Bridgestone Arena. That's fine. We still have 45. You know, I couldn't even – usually I put the schedule in our description, our video description, and the way I had it was over 5,000 words. It was too long for the description. I had to cut out some of the arenas. So it's okay. We don't need Avs Preds. Viper on Cincy Moneyline and Netherlands and Ecuador first half draw. There's Justin McElvey in the house. Dan Kelly. It was fun hanging out with you guys. Too bad I gave away some of my profits there in that last game. But overall, the black, time you're in the black, I guess it's a good thing. So, but it was very fun hanging out with all you guys. Mr. Always Profit in the house. The Gym-marathon. I like that. I like that, MDR. AJ 1337 in the house. Boogie Main, Rocco Rogers, Spenny Penny Bombs. Wasn't he fantastic? What a great capper and great friend. Fun hanging with Spenny yesterday. Serious Business, Jedi for Life, Blitzer Bobby, Parlangel, Slatsy says 5 afternoon games in NHL. Let's get going. Bruins regulation and Flames moneyline, Devils moneyline. See, I want the Sabres. I think that I think that the Devils could come back to earth. I haven't bet it yet, but I am very interested in the Sabres today. I like the way the Sabres are playing, and I just feel like they're coming. Yes, Troy Torrance, yes. College football will be first. The Kraken did not tuck me in nicely. No, tucked me in quite angry. Slatsy says, how's that Kraken hangover? Look, I'm good at this. I can handle this shit. Don't worry about a thing here. I'm all good. A little rough around the edges, but nothing that capping 50 games can't fix. AOD, Harold Williams, Lucas Ryan. Lucas, you were a lot of fun. Imp, Ross Pitts. I don't remember much of the late game, to be honest with you. Stimmy OG, Fireside. Fireside saying Matthias Samuelson came back and changed the Sabres. Keep buying low. Yeah, I will be on. I expect to be on the Buffalo Sabres, but we'll talk it all out. There's Cody McJunkins in the house. Slatsy took the first period over in Sens Ducks. So let's go over things. We are going to talk about college football first. And Bobano has the videos that are up right now on our YouTube page. But we're going to get quick takes from him on all the games. And we have a bunch popping off here at 12 p.m. Eastern. Tulane, Cincinnati, Baylor, Texas, Utah State, Boise State, Central Michigan, Toledo. The only games we're going to skip are New Mexico, Colorado State, and Nebraska, Iowa. We're just going to skip those. Then we'll get right into NHL. And after that, we'll get into college basketball, focusing on the Mary Baldwin Fighting Squirrels, of course. We did pick 10 spotlight games. Unfortunately, Mary Baldwin Fighting Squirrels didn't make the cut. So for you Fighting Squirrel fans, I apologize. There won't be a Mary Baldwin breakdown today. But we're doing USC, Wisconsin, San Francisco, Davidson. And then we got the Phil Knight Legacy and Invitational. We're all over it. We're going to do Duke, Xavier. We're going to do North Carolina, Iowa State, Iowa, Clemson, Tennessee, Kansas, Oklahoma, Seton Hall, UConn, Alabama, Purdue, Gonzaga, and Oregon, Michigan State. I don't know how. I have to. I almost said something horrible, Andrew G. I had to edit myself there, so I won't. When I'm a little hungover, I'm a little edgier. So I won't answer your question. Kevin Lee likes that Texas Baylor over. Harold Williams leaning to Tulane team total over. And then I will break down NBA with you, just you and I. And I've cashed 7 of my last 9 NBA bets, but we're digging you don't dig out of a hole. We're climbing out of a hole is what we are doing. So, I can still taste the Kraken, but the coffee helps. Let's get to work. We have an enormous card to break down. Thank you guys so much for joining us here on Pub Sports Radio. Let's bring on the star of your Friday shows, coming to us from Steeltown, Hamilton, Ontario. Please welcome Ian Cameron to the show. Ian, how are you, my man?
Happy Thanksgiving. Well, after Thanksgiving, of course, but I hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving. Mine was good. Only a 17-3 day. So see if we can follow that up pretty nicely.
Jesus, that's a gorgeous 17-3. I love it.
The NFL was a beautiful thing. Lions hit, Giants hit, thanks to a little backdoor, and Vikings at night. College basketball was terrific. 3 losses in that card. So, and 14 wins. It was just a hell of a day. But let's see if we can duplicate that today, because it's a massive slate.
It's a huge slate, but congratulations on a giant evening. Let's get to work. Let me make sure that I've got everything set up for us here. Let me move this over here, and let's go bring up college football. All right, let's roll. We start
at brevity for me. I'm going to try.
We got
a lot of games.
We start at 12 p.m. Eastern in college football. Tulane Green Wave 9-2, 6-1 in the American at the 24th ranked Cincinnati Bearcats 9-2, 6-1 in the American. We're at Nippert Stadium in Cincinnati, Ohio. 51 Fahrenheit, partly cloudy, 8 miles per hour. Take a look at the line history for this one. We have Tulane opening up as a 3-point dog. They are now 1-point favorites, expecting to stop this legendary Cincinnati home winning streak. That's wild. So from a money line perspective, Tulane's gone from plus 130 to minus 107. They got up to minus 112, but now they're at minus 107. From a total standpoint, open up at 47 and is now down to 44.5. Taking a look at the cash flow here for this one. We have 4,690 tickets in, 61% of the tickets, 88% of the cash on Tulane market moving towards them. 80% of the tickets and 95% of the cash on the over, and yet it's dropped 2.5 points. North Ender, what's up, my man? I apologize. Sorry, we're moving pretty quick here. Stimmy looking at Tulane plus 1.5. Take it away for us, Bobano, Tulane, Cincinnati.
Yeah, this is going to be a card that is going to be something to behold, trying to recap what I'm going to be on when this show is done. So get your pens and your paper out. It's high volume and it is absolute finest today. And we're starting right off the hop here with Tulane and the over in this game. Tulane's my meal ticket. Tulane's been my squad. I ride or die with the Green Wave. I've cashed a win total with them. I'm sitting on an AAC future at a big long shot price with them to win this conference. There's no way I'm abandoning them here against what I think is a bit of an overrated, not fraudulent. Cincinnati's really good and well coached, but they aren't the same Cincinnati. And Temple just said last week against Cincinnati, we don't want to win the game. Here you go. You take it. Cincinnati was really gifted that game, in my opinion. This is a team that is going to be without Ben Bryant, their quarterback, today. Now, a lot of people think the world of Evan Prater, the guy that's going to take over. He's a dual threat quarterback. He's very much like Desmond Ridder, previous quarterback here at Cincinnati in terms of his skill set. But first game playing in a high stakes game where the winner is in the AAC championship game. The loser's not out, but the loser's got to wait to see what UCF does later this weekend. to see if they're in the championship game. But the easiest thing to say is whoever wins is in the AAC championship game here. So it's a very important game for both teams. I think Tulane is ready. I know that one game against UCF, that was not pretty for them, and their defense got ripped on the ground by UCF, but I think there's a different matchup. Cincinnati doesn't run it quite as well, and I like Tulane on defense. I like their quarterback, Michael Pratt. He's a dual threat. He's been good. They've got Tajay Spears, an outstanding running back, and I just think when you look at them statistically, there's a lot of statistics that point to them actually being better than Cincinnati. So Tulane at a pick 'em. I mean, I got a +1.5. I don't think that's available anymore. So we're just going to have to go money line here on Tulane. And I'm also going to take the over now that it's dropped to 44, 43. I even saw some 43.5s here. Let me just double check to see if we can make it less than that 44, because I'm telling you what, that's a key number when it comes to totals. Looks like we can get a let me see here. No, it's back up to 44 everywhere. So we'll go with that. We'll go with over 44. -110, bet 365. And as for Tulane, we'll take them money line -106 at FanDuel.
I can get you a +100 at Bet Chris. Better. So we'll give you Tulane +100 and the over 44 at -108. We roll on. More noon games popping off here in 47 minutes. Next up, Baylor Bears 6-5, 4-4 in the Big 12. Texas Longhorns 7-4, 5-3 in the Big 12. Still hoping to somehow get into this Big 12 championship game. We're at DKR-Texas Memorial Stadium in Austin, 58 Fahrenheit, cloudy, 11 miles per hour. There could be showers. There could be showers late here, possibly in this game. Could be showers late. There's Nut Flush Allen in the house. Great to see you, Nut Flush. It was fun hanging out with you last night. Let's take a look at the line history here for this one. We have over here, we have Texas opening up at -7.5. They got up to -10 yesterday around noon. Now they're back at -9 at Pinnacle. This total opened up at 56. It is now at 55. Baylor on a 2-game losing streak. The latest was the 29-28 loss at home to TCU. And Texas bounced back from their 17-10 loss at home to TCU by beating Kansas 55-14. Take it away for us, Bobano. Baylor, Texas.
Yeah, this is going to be a pass for me, this game. I mean, I don't have anything side or total. I mean, these are two teams where 1 week they show up offensively, 1 week they don't. 1 week they show up defensively, 1 week they don't. So that's why the total is tough. As far as the side goes, look, I do not want Baylor in this game. So if you have to bet a side, in my opinion, you lay the points with Texas or you don't bet it. Okay, I don't know what we see from Baylor today. That was gut-wrenching last week, and I said this with Connor Mack on Hitting the Books on Monday. How do you pick yourself up off the mat when you lose the way you did against TCU? You know, you gutted it out. You were right in that game. You were leading the majority of that football game. They go with a fire drill to bring the kicking unit out on the final play of the game. They kicked the game-winning field goal, and they showed camera shots. They panned around all the camera shots of these Baylor players after the game. It looked like someone died in the family. Seriously. I mean, that's what they looked like after that game. They looked totally distraught, just heartbroken, gut-wrenched after losing the way they did against TCU, undefeated TCU. They had them on the ropes, and they couldn't finish it. I know this is supposed to be big Texas, big game, big rivalry game here, but when you lose like that, I'm really, really concerned about the psyche, and I'm really worried about a hangover here for the Baylor Bears today. So I haven't bet Texas. I'm not going to bet Texas, but certainly I lean that way.
Big game in Austin. Let's keep it rolling, keeping everything tight. Our speed is working here. We have another noon game. Utah State Aggies 6-5, 5-2 in the Mountain West. The Boise State Broncos 8-3, 7-0 in conference. Albertsons Stadium in Boise, Idaho. It is chilly, 31 Fahrenheit, partly cloudy, 5 mile per hour winds. Let's take a look at the line history for this one. Boise State opening at -14.5. They're now -17. This total is stuck at 53. We take a look at the cash flow for this one. They've given almost 50% line value to Boise State. Texas as well had the line value there. And when we take a look at the cash, 53% of tickets, 58% of cash on Utah State, 67% of tickets, 62% of the cash on the over. Take it away for us here, Bobano, Utah State, Boise State.
Yeah, I'm on Utah State here, plus 17, minus 108 at Pinnacle. I think that looks like the best we can get with the Aggies here. It's a really simple handicap. Boise State, to me, is still not the team I trust laying a number like this. Their offense has been mostly better with Talon Green, although the offense has not been as good recently. They actually looked the last couple of weeks. It hasn't been quite as sharp, and the execution hasn't been as good for Boise's offense. And Boise's already clinched a spot in next week's Mountain West Championship game. They know they're playing Fresno State in the Mountain West Championship game. So this really becomes like a exhibition game, if you will, for Boise State. Now you might want to think, okay, they want to keep everybody sharp. You don't want to rest anybody because you want to go into next week with momentum. But I think I'm not totally sure that you're going to see the starters for the entire game. In fact, there's some hints going on that might not be the case. But either way, you worry about motivation a little bit with the Mountain West title game next week. That's the game of importance for Boise. And Boise's probably still the better team and going to win. But you're asking them now to win by more than 17 points. And Utah State, if you look at last year's meeting, Utah State was blown out on the scoreboard by Boise State. But I remember that game because I was on Utah State. They were moving the ball throughout that entire football game, and they missed field goals. They turned it over. They got stopped on fourth down. It was just that vicious cycle, and either moving the ball, and they couldn't get any points out of it. It was the damnedest thing. So when I look at this matchup here, I look at Boise, maybe a little disinterested. I think Utah State brings a lot to the table here. It's an important game for Utah State. Pretty damn sure they're going for bowl eligibility, if I'm not mistaken, as well. Utah State here in this matchup against Boise. Let me just confirm that. No, they've already got it. They're 6-5. But
yeah.
Either way, I mean, I think there's a lot more to play. There's a lot more interest, I think, on the Utah State side. Cooper Legas, their quarterback, hasn't been that bad since taking over at the quarterback spot. Certainly, even if Boise's up by double digits, the back door is wide open. So I like Utah State here. Good situational spot, and I think the line value is there. So Utah State plus 17.
Let's lock that in for you. Utah State plus 17. We can get you that at minus 102 over at 5 dimes. And Bobano is locked in here with Utah State. All right, we roll on plus 17, minus 102. We roll on. Next up for us, we head to Ypsilanti, Michigan. Central Michigan Chippewas 4-7, 3-4 in the MAC at the Eastern Michigan Eagles. 45 Fahrenheit, sunny, 13 miles per hour. Let's take a look at what we are dealing with here from a line history standpoint. We have Eastern Michigan opening up at -1. They are now -1.5. They got up to -2.5. And they actually were moved. They became a dog for a while on Monday. They were +1.5, and they've come back into the favorite spot. From a total perspective, opened up at 54.5. Now it's juiced to the under at Pinnacle at -119. So basically it's a 54. Let's take a look at the cash flow for this one. They've given 25%, maybe 20% line value to Eastern Michigan, just 1,588 tickets in, 48% of the tickets on Eastern Michigan, and 90% of the cash. 61% of tickets, 98% of cash on the under. Eastern Michigan's looked quite good. They won 2 road games, Akron and Kent State. Kent State was an impressive victory, 31-24. And Central Michigan coming off the loss to Western Michigan, 12-10, which they covered for us. We were on them. Take it away for us here, Bobano. Central Michigan, Chippewas, Eastern Michigan Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, this opened with Central as a favorite. It's more toward Pick'em, as you said, and there's Eastern is favored, I think, by 1 in a lot of spots. There are actually a couple books that have Pick'em. There's even one book that still has Central Michigan a 1-point favorite. So, this line's all over the place here between these two teams. I always like Eastern Michigan as an underdog, so you can't really say they're an underdog anymore with where this number is. But I'm still going to take them anyway here in this game. Eastern Michigan, I'll just go money line probably. That's -110. And I'm also going to go over the total, 53.5. Central Michigan, when you look at them offensively, I trust them a little bit more than defensively. Although last week, I can't explain what happened to their offense. It just didn't work against Western Michigan. They ended up losing that game. It was a struggle. I like the way for Eastern Michigan, since he's taken over at the quarterback spot, how Taylor Powell has played. And remember, Taylor Powell, a quarterback now for Eastern Michigan, he's played big-time college football. Missouri in his early career, Troy, he was there as well. So this is his third school. Playing well, I think, for this team when you look at it. And when I see the Central Michigan side, they've, of course, got Daniel Richardson. Although, I'll tell you what, Daniel Richardson was kind of usurped a little bit last week by Bert Emanuel Jr. When things weren't going well, he all of a sudden, a couple weeks ago ended up getting a big day on the ground, and they're kind of going back and forth with this 2-quarterback system now, Central Michigan. That might help to keep their offense productive here and keep Eastern Michigan defensively a little bit off balance. At the end of the day, I think both teams get their points, so I like this game over the total, and I'm going to side here with Eastern Michigan here. Pick them at home. I think they find a way. And in a game where I think both offenses have success, you ask yourself which defense is going to be capable of getting stops. Both teams have comparable defensive numbers on the season, so it's going to be pretty close. But I think home field's the difference. So I'll go Eastern Michigan and over the total.
Let's hook you up with it. This market is all over the place.
It is, yeah,
all over the place. So you can get a +1 right now for Eastern Michigan over at Bet365.
Yeah, we'll go with that. Sure. I mean, you never know. Maybe they lose by 1, and that's going to be the difference between a push and a loss. So
Eastern Michigan +1,
we'll go with
locked in, and you want to go over the total.
Yeah.
Over the total in this one. Let's fire that up here. We have waiting for it to. Here we go. We can get you a 53 over 53 at -108. That's available at Heritage over 53 at -108.
Excellent.
Bobano is locked in. And yes, I'm just the caveat right now. It was a heavy day of boozing yesterday and the 3 live games that we hammered. So I'm just going to be setting tables right now and listening to see if I want to attack. Let's move on to the next and final 12 p.m. game here. Toledo Rockets back to the MAC, 7-4, 5-2 in conference at Western Michigan Broncos, 4-7, 3-4 in conference. We're at Waldo Stadium in Kalamazoo, Michigan, 44 Fahrenheit, partly cloudy, 11 miles per hour is the wind. Let's take a look at what we're dealing with line history-wise for this one. Toledo opening up at -8. They're now -7.5. And this total opened up at 53 and has dropped to 50.5. Move over to the cash flow in this one. 1,752 tickets in, 32% of the tickets and 67% of the cash on Western Michigan, and 57% of the tickets, 96% of the cash on this under. Take it away for us, Bobano. Toledo, Western Michigan.
All right, you guys know what I'm doing here. If you've been watching Hitting the Books, College Football Pub Hub, anything college football on this channel, we're fading Toledo as favorites again, because that's what we've been doing all season long, especially the last few weeks. So yes, for me, Western Michigan +9.5, -110 at ProLine Plus here in Ontario. We will go with that for this game. I mean, it's very simple. Toledo has just been absolutely horrendous as favorites. 0-4 ATS, their last 4 games, all is chalk, losing to Buffalo, winning by 3 at Eastern Michigan, winning by only 7 against Ball State, the shocking loss against Bowling Green, 42-35 before that. This team is definitely struggling as massive favorites. And not only that, you add on another element to this game, they don't even have shit to play for today. Toledo's already in the MAC championship game next week. They already know they're facing Ohio. So this game becomes, like I say, exhibition. There's nothing at stake here. It's keep everybody healthy and move on to next week. And look, Western Michigan started the season arguably the worst team in the MAC, and they are still very rough offensively. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. That's not a great offensive team, but their defense has picked it up the last 4 weeks. In fact, the last 4 games, they played a lot better defensively, stopping the run better. Even just overall, their pass numbers and run numbers defensively have improved the last 4 games. And you look at the last 4 games, 2-2 straight up, 3-1 against the spread for the Broncos. And the losses were by 4 at Bowling Green and by 3 against Northern Illinois. Very competitive in defeat. They're at home. It's their home finale. I know it's been a rough season for them, 4-7. They're not going bowling, but just to end the season with a solid performance at home, I think that's something. And Toledo's just looking to next week. So Western Michigan for me, plus the points.
I like that look a lot. That makes a ton of sense to me. We move on to afternoon action. And before we do that, before we move on to the afternoon football action, let's just quickly jump over to college basketball. We have Bobano and I are breaking down games starting at 1 p.m. with the Trojans and the Badgers. But let's just take a quick look at the noon games because I know there's going to be a lot of action here from our guys, and just want to take a quick look and see if any of them interest you, Bobano. Move over here, and God, that Jackson State, Indiana does not look very appealing. You have Ball State, Vermont, and Jackson State, Indiana. Do it. Alcorn State, Cal State, Bakersfield. Any of those three games interest you at all?
I probably won't be betting any of them. I have a lean to Vermont a little bit. I feel even they're struggling badly right now, Vermont. I get it, but that's a better team than they've shown. I've got to believe that's a better team than they've shown so far. And to me, they're still on paper a decent clip better than Ball State, but they are struggling right now. And maybe you don't bet on them till they show you something, but I definitely came close with Vermont -3.5, but I ended up pulling back on that one. The only bet I made early is already underway. Siena +12 against Ole Miss. Siena is going to be a damn good team in the Metro Atlantic. They destroyed Florida State yesterday. I took them plus points against Ole Miss. Unfortunately, it does nobody any good. That game started already.
All good, my man. Thank you for discussing those afternoon games. Great to see Ron Lofton rolling with us. Dabby Cab, Ricky Levine, Top Crocodile, Avocado, Man Bear Pig, Loyalty Chisel. Great to see all you guys. All right, let's move on to afternoon action here on the college gridiron. We start with Arizona State, Arizona. Game pops off at 3 p.m. Eastern. Arizona State 3-8, 2-6 in the pack. Arizona 4-7, 2-6 in the pack. Disappointing seasons for both squads. Arizona Stadium in Tucson, 60 Fahrenheit, sunny, 4 miles per hour. Arizona opening up at -4 at -107. That's where they are now, -4, -109. This total opened up at 63. It's shot all the way up to 66.5. 1,210 tickets in, 39% of the tickets, 58% of the cash on State. 63% of the tickets, 84% of the cash on the over, and it's gone up 3.5 points. Take it away for us, Bobano. Little Pac-12 action here, popping off in 3.5 hours.
Yeah, let's do Arizona -3.5, -110 at bookmaker/Chris. We'll go with that. And we will also go with the over. Even it's moved a little bit, but it's still over 65.5. I see it -115 at FanDuel. So we'll lock that in as well. High-scoring game, definitely. I mean, I think you're going to see a lot of Arizona State horrible on defense. And I think Arizona's cheap here in this game. I think Arizona State, I don't want to say they've mailed it in on the season, but, we have not seen them show the fight and the effort that we need late in the season. They already had their coach fired, Herm Edwards. He's back on ESPN now. They're 0-3 straight up, 0-3 against the spread. Their last 3 games, all double-digit losses. By 14 to UCLA, by 10 to Washington State, destroyed by Oregon State on their home field. And look, Arizona, if you ever wonder if there's a game circled on someone's schedule, you've got to believe that's the case for Arizona. They got destroyed 70-7 2 years ago by Arizona State, and again got whacked 38-15 by Arizona State in this Territorial Cup rivalry game last year. Well, guess what? Arizona's a whole hell of a lot better this year than any of those 2 Arizona teams were. I think they show up big time. I think this matters to Arizona to finally beat Arizona State. They're better finally than Arizona State, and I think they flex their muscles. I'm laying the points, and I think the game goes over the total. I think Arizona gets like 40, 50 maybe even on their own, and I think you can get at least into the 20s, high 20s from Arizona State, because that is still the strength of the team if there is one. It's offense. It's not their defense. So Arizona and over.
You are locked in. Sharpie joining us. You were so much fun yesterday. Sharpie, so much fun capping with you all day and night. We move on to ACC action. NC State Wolfpack 7-4, 3-4 in conference at number 17. North Carolina Tar Heels 9-2, 6-1 in conference. We're at Kenan Stadium in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. 57 Fahrenheit, cloudy, 5 miles per hour. North Carolina opening up as 6.5 point favorites. They're 6 right now. From a total perspective, opened up at 56.5. It's at 56, so not a ton of movement. Let's take a look at the cash for this one. And we have just 1,941 tickets in. It's all NC money. I'm surprised that the market's moving slightly towards NC State because 82% of the tickets and 90% of the cash is on North Carolina. And it's moving a half point towards NC State. Books have no concern that all this money is coming in on North Carolina. I know there's only 2,000 tickets in. 70% of the tickets, 56% of the cash on this over. And we have North Carolina coming off a loss, a 21-17 at home to Georgia Tech. NC State's lost back-to-back games, Boston College, and then at Louisville, 25-10 last week. Take it away for us, Bobano, NC State, North Carolina.
This is a real tough game. I mean, I'm not betting it. North Carolina, laying points with that defense and what they did against Georgia Tech last week, I'm not looking at that really. And North Carolina's in the ACC championship game against Clemson next week. So, again, this is another situation where, yes, it's a rivalry game. You may want to show up here and play well, but you got the ACC championship game next week. You showed last week you were totally disinterested. Now, you should be looking to bounce. I think they will play hard here because, look, that was embarrassing against Georgia Tech. You got to think they got to show up and be better, North Carolina. And I like Drake May a lot, but I still don't like that defense consistently one week to the next, and they're laying 6.5. So I guess if I had to, I'd lean NC State, but I'm seeing that Jack Chambers might be their quarterback. They don't know who it's going to be. We know Devin Leary's out for the year. He's missed the last few games, so it's been between Jack Chambers, MJ Morris, and Ben Finley. They've been cycling quarterbacks here at NC State, and I think Chambers is the worst of the bunch. He's been awful, and yet I'm seeing reports he might be the starter today. And if that's the case, there's no freaking way I'd touch NC State. No way. He's been really terrible at the quarterback spot. So this became a pretty clear pass for me.
I get it. It's too bad North Carolina's coming off the loss, or this would be a slam dunk NC State bet for me. I'm still considering it at this point. Still considering it. Let's roll on here. Next up for us is SEC action. Arkansas Razorbacks, the Pigs in action. 6-5, 3-4 in conference. Let me move this here. At Missouri Tigers, 5-6, 2-5 in conference. We're in Columbia, Missouri, 53 Fahrenheit, sunny, 2 miles per hour. 2 miles per hour. Let's take a look at the line history for this one. We have this here. Here we go. We have Arkansas opening up as 4.5-point favorites. They got down to 3 today, 3 this morning. It's back at 3.5. But you can probably still find a 3. From a total standpoint, opened up at 56.5. It's now at 55. And we take a look at the cash flow for this one. There we go. We have almost half line value on the Razorbacks, 3,480 tickets in. But the cash and the big bets are coming in on Missouri. Market moving towards Missouri. 66% of the tickets, 86% of the cash on Missouri. And 44% of the tickets, but 80% of the cash on this over. Let's move over here and take a look here. We have Arkansas bouncing back off the 2 losses, the Liberty loss and at home to LSU by beating Ole Miss 42-27 last week. And Missouri bouncing back from their 2-game losing streak with a very, very easy walk in the park against the New Mexico State Aggies, 45-14. Take it away for us, Bobano, Arkansas at Missouri.
Do you know that Arkansas hasn't won at Missouri in, I don't even know how long it was. I heard it was something like 70 years, 80 years. That's how long it's been since Arkansas has won it. I couldn't believe it when I heard it, but that's not the only reason I like Missouri. But look, this is a spot that I don't trust Arkansas. Okay, they're off the LSU game where they fought their guts out and lost a close one. The Ole Miss game where it was a great performance. And look, a healthy KJ Jefferson matters. And he was healthy last week. He played great. But now after those 2 big games, you're going on the road. It's kind of if they win they're already bowling, Arkansas. If they win this game, so what? You're still going to be in a minor bowl game. And if you lose this game, you're still going to a minor bowl game. So it really doesn't impact things for Arkansas. Meanwhile, Missouri, it's their home finale. They need a win to go bowling. They're at 5 wins. They need a win to get to bowl eligibility. Now, again, must win doesn't equal will win. But we have seen better play out of Missouri down the stretch, and we've seen them hang around in a bunch of games, especially at home. Remember, they almost beat Georgia, mighty Georgia, on this home field, 26-22. 7-point loss at Florida. They beat Vanderbilt at home. They 21-17 loss to Kentucky, but that was turnover induced. The Tennessee game got away from them in the second half. But I think for Missouri, when you look at it, this defense has improved this year. They're going to have to lean on that group. And you know what's significant is Arkansas is a great run defense. Missouri is a little bit better stopping the run. So it's not a bad matchup here for Missouri. I have questionable motivation, questionable focus for Arkansas, meaningless road finale. Missouri for me, plus the points.
I agree on this Missouri look. I'm going to be joining you here. Let's see what we can get you line-wise here for Missouri. Got the total up. Let's pull up the spread and line shop quickly here. Missouri, we can get you plus 3.5 minus 108. Plus 3.5 minus 108. Plus 3.5 minus 108. We're
definitely selling high on Arkansas in this spot because they had the big win last week. And again, this is just that totally different situation. You're going on the road, Missouri. That's not going to excite you if you're Arkansas. When you're used to playing Alabama and Auburn and LSU and Georgia, big games, and you got Missouri. You already can't really get any major goal or incentive from winning this game. The difference between 6 and 7 wins is negligible. And meanwhile, you're facing a Missouri team that's playing their own finale, playing for a bowl game. So I think definitely it's a situationals point to Mizzou here.
I agree. Locked in. Let's head to California for the next one. Berkeley, California, 64 Fahrenheit, mostly sunny, 4 miles per hour. Number 18th ranked UCLA Bruins, 8-3, 5-3 in the pack, coming off back-to-back losses. California Golden Bears, 4-7, 2-6 in the pack. Let's take a look at the line history for this one. UCLA opening up as 9-point favorites. They are now 11-point favorites. This total opened up at 60.5. It's now at 61.5. And when we take a look at the cash flow for this one, 1,904 tickets in. They've given UCLA some line value, about 15% line value. But the bigger bets are coming in on Cal. 35% of the tickets on Cal, 65% of the cash. And then 65% of the tickets on the over and 92% of the cash on that over. UCLA, of course, coming off the loss to Arizona at home and then the loss to USC 48-45. And Cal snapped their losing streak with a win at home over Stanford last week. Take it away for us, Bobano, UCLA, Cal.
Yeah, I'm on Cal, and I'm on the over here, the home dog, and also over the total in this game. Should be a lot of points, no question, as with every UCLA game recently. I think the best we can do with the total is over 61.5 at DraftKings. So there we go, over 61.5 at DraftKings. We will lock that in for over. And for Cal, we will look at, looks like plus, let me just see here, plus 11.5. Looks like the best we've got, plus 11.5 at Bet 365. So there we go. Plus 11.5 Cal and over 61.5. I mean, same kind of like there's a lot of I'm not a big situational handicapper, but man, you have to keep it in the back of your mind here when you're talking this week in particular. And UCLA, they've had all their dreams shattered. Shattered dreams, feel like I could run away. The UCLA, I mean, they are a team that's a little 80s right there, but UCLA hope to be in the playoff, gone. Hope to be in the Pac-12 championship game / Rose Bowl, gone with these last 2 losses. This is a dubious spot to be laying double digits on the road. And by the way, you can't play a lick of defense lately either, UCLA. So, look, Cal's offense has been up and down this year. Jack Plummer, the quarterback, has been up and down this year, but I've seen a little bit better from this offense, since they made the change. Remember, at USC, 21-point dogs, they lost by 6. You see the way they've played in some of their step-up games. A home loss by 7 to a pretty good Washington team. We've seen Cal step up and cover numbers against some of the better teams in this conference. Even the Oregon game, they were competitive in that game before falling 42-24. I just think it's a tricky spot for UCLA. They don't have much defense going for them right now. Looks like DTR is going to play. He got banged up for UCLA at the end of that USC game last week, but I think Thompson Robinson's going to play. But even if he does, you're laying points in a dubious spot, questionable motivation, bad defense. I like Cal, and I like over the total.
You are locked in. The next game is our live bet stream tonight right here on Pub Sports Radio, starring Dabby Cab and Razor Sharp Picks. It's the Florida Gators, 6-5 at number 16 ranked Florida State Seminoles 6-3. We're in Tallahassee for this, and there's scattered thunderstorms to watch for. Not sure if they will hit, but there's scattered thunderstorms in the weather over there in Tallahassee. 76 Fahrenheit. The wind is at 8 miles per hour. We have Florida opening up at +9. They're now +10. From a total standpoint, this total opened up at 57.5, which is right where it is now. It is now juiced slightly to the over. Take a look at the cash flow for this one. They've given Florida State line value, 33% line value, 2,685 tickets in, 59% of the tickets on Florida State, 56% of the cash. Then you have 74% of the tickets, 79% of the cash on this over. Florida State coming in on a 4-game winning streak, took out the Ragin' Cajuns easily last week, 49-17. And the Florida Gators, a modest 2-game winning streak, came to an end at Vandy, losing 31-24 last week. Take it away for us, Bobano. This is our highlight game here, live bet stream tonight at 7:15. The game pops off at 7:30. Take it away, Gators, Seminoles.
Yeah, I have a small bet on Florida State -8.5, and I knew when it got to 9.5, probably coming into this show, I'm probably not going to make it an official play. Now that it's hit 10, I'm definitely not going to make it an official play. I mean, it's just gotten a little too high for me, but I ain't stepping in front of Florida State. I mean, they are just 4 straight wins, 4 straight covers. They're blowing teams out. Florida was that just Florida bad? Florida, running out of gas late in the season, or was that a look ahead to this game with the loss at Vanderbilt last week? Because that was a horrible game. For Florida, 31-24. Either way, whether they were looking ahead or not, they're not better than Florida State. And Florida State has taken it on the chin from Florida 2 years in a row. In fact, 3 years in a row. Mike Norvell knows he's finally got the better team. And I think if Florida State has the opportunity to not just win this game, but run up a score, they might. Because Florida's owned them the last 3 years. They finally have the better team. The one thing that's going to keep me off the -10 now is not only the move, but Florida in the underdog role has been somewhat capable this year. They were 23.5-point dogs against Georgia. They covered the Tennessee game, 11.5-point dogs. They lost by 5. So they've been in some of these games catching points, and 10's just a little too much for me to be comfortable, but I ain't stepping in front of Big Ragu's Seminoles here in this game.
Keegan Lamont saying Florida missing all their top receivers, and it showed last week. Let's move on to the final game here on our NCAA football breakdowns before we get into NHL, then NCAA basketball. It is Mountain West action. Wyoming Cowboys 7-4, 5-2 in conference at Fresno State Bulldogs 7-4, 6-1 in conference. Bulldog Stadium in Fresno, California, 56 Fahrenheit clear, 2 miles per hour is the wind. Let's take a look at the line history for this one here. We have Wyoming opening up as big 2 touchdown dogs +14.5. They're now +15. From a total standpoint, it opened up at 50.5, which is right where it is right now. Cash-wise, we have 668 tickets, just 668 tickets in, 27% of the tickets, 41% of the cash on Fresno State. And then we don't have a cash flow for the total, but 65% of the tickets are on the over. Wyoming had their winning streak snapped in a 2017 loss at home to Boise State, and Fresno is winning and beat up on Nevada 41-14 on the road. Take it away for us here, Bobano. Last game on the college football card, Wyoming, Fresno State.
I think this could go 2-0, and it's a weird way of betting it because Wyoming and over don't normally correlate. Usually Wyoming, if they cover, it's going to be a low-scoring game. But I'm going to go Wyoming plus the points, and I'm going to go over the total in this game. If Fresno covers, they're going to shred Wyoming's defense, and Wyoming has some injuries in the secondary going into this game, and that's not what you want to see against Jake Haener and the Bulldogs going into it. So, and you look at Wyoming's defense, it's pretty good, but a lot of their good performances have been against weaker offenses and especially at home. Look at on the road. If they played a good offense, Colorado State, pathetic offense. Hawaii, not a great offense. New Mexico, just a brutal offense. The 2 good offenses they played on the road, Wyoming, they gave up 38 to BYU and 38 to Illinois. So that, to me, I think Fresno, especially with those injuries in the secondary for Wyoming, they're going to move the ball. So I like over the total for sure. It's probably the stronger bet for me is the total over in this game. But Wyoming, I think, can move the ball. I think that new quarterback for them, he played last week. It was rough Okay, very rough for Clemens, Jaden Clemens, the quarterback. 3 of 16, 30 yards. But don't worry about him throwing the ball. Rely on Titus Swen to run the football. He's a terrific running back. And Fresno's defense is 86th in the country stopping the run. They're giving up 165 rushing yards per game. That's good news for Wyoming offensively because they need to run the football to be effective. Titus Swen should be able to do that today. So I like Wyoming plus the points to hang around. Fresno, just like Boise. We talked about it in the spot with Boise earlier. Fresno's clinched the Mountain West Championship spot. They're playing Boise next week. They don't need to win by a big margin. So Wyoming plus the points. But because of those secondary issues with Wyoming, I'm also going to go over the total as well.
I like it. You are locked in. Let's do a review of Bobano's action. We got all the football in before the kickoff for a bunch of these football games, which is what I was hoping for. So great work on our speed there. We have Bobano's on Tulane at plus 100 and the over 44 in Tulane, Cincinnati. Stayed off Baylor, Texas. He moved on Utah State plus 17. And there was a lot of cappers in the chat that agreed with that look. Bobano's on Eastern Michigan plus 1 and the over 53 in Central Michigan, Eastern Michigan. He's on Western Michigan plus 9.5 at home against Toledo. Arizona minus 3.5 and the over 65.5 in Arizona State, Arizona. Stayed off NC State, North Carolina. He's on Missouri plus 3.5 at minus 108. I will be joining him on that. He's on over 61.5 and Cal at plus 11.5 in UCLA, California. Stayed off Florida Gators, Florida State Seminoles. And that will be our live bet stream this evening with Dabby Cab and Razor Sharp picks right here. It pops off 7:15. The game starts at 7:30. And then he's moved on Wyoming plus 15 and the over 50.5. There we go. Let's move on to NHL. And so close to the black right now. I can see the black. I'm going to be in the black very, very soon. It was a very interesting day on Wednesday, which was fun. I had Ottawa and Anaheim first period, both the plus money that pushed. I had Pittsburgh -1 that pushed. You guys knew my most confident spot on the board was the Islanders at home against the Oilers, and that cashed on the -1 line. Also, we cashed the under 6 in Arizona, Carolina, not the way I expected it to, with Arizona shutting out Carolina, but we talked about the depth issues that Carolina is facing right now, and they are serious issues. They're not getting scoring from key depth pieces there, and it's affecting them, and I like it. I like watching them lose. Let's start at 1 p.m. Eastern with the Carolina Hurricanes at Boston Bruins. We're at TD Garden in Boston, Massachusetts, and I told you guys how badly I wanted to bet Florida last game. It was Florida or nothing. I ended up doing nothing. My leans were so strong on Wednesday, but it's fine if I keep my volume somewhat low on that huge card. Let's get to work here. 1 p.m. Eastern. Hurricanes 10-6-4, 6-3-3 on the road. Boston Bruins 17-3-0, 11-0 at home, and they're proud of those zeros that are attached. TD Garden in Boston. I have Kochetkov listed. I'm not sure if he will be starting, but he was listed last night. 2.22 goals against average, 908 save percentage. Going up against Linus Ullmark, who's been nothing short of spectacular this year. 1.96 goals against average, 935 save percentage. Let's take a look at and again, if there's differences, changes with the goaltending, let me know. Here we go. Just a quick line history here. We have Carolina opening up here at plus 128. They're now plus 136. And the total opening up at 6 minus 116 to the under is a total that I'd like to be under. If the scoring wasn't so incredibly high, every other year, Carolina, Boston would have been a 5.5. Every other year, not this year. And I think we should take advantage of these Carolina Hurricane totals at 6. Take it away for us, Bobano. Hurricanes, Bruins.
I hate to do this to you, but I'm gonna add one play from one of the games we didn't do in college because I wanted this on my card. Nebraska plus 11, minus 112 against Iowa. Now I know Iowa's got to win the Big Ten, win today to be in the Big Ten championship game, but again, must win doesn't equal will win, and I see no evidence of Iowa being able to beat this team by a big margin. The last 4 years, Iowa 3-point win, Iowa 3-point win, Iowa 6-point win, Iowa 7-point win. I mean, every game has been a one-score game. Nebraska, Iowa, this rivalry series the last few years. You look at teams that are not, Michigan and Ohio State, and Nebraska's been competitive. They lost by 1 to Wisconsin last week. They lost by 7 against Minnesota. They lost by 6 against Purdue. Been competitive, in a lot of these games since the coaching change. So I think it's a few too many points. And you ever going to trust Iowa's offense laying 11? I'm not. So I like Nebraska there plus 11. As for the hockey, Boston, Carolina, pass for me here. I think it's both teams are going to bring it here in this spot. Bruins a loss against Florida. Shout out to my guy, Jimmy Murphy, on my Ice Guys hockey show the other day. He said, I was worried about Boston, he said, in this spot. And, of course, he covers the Bruins. He said they had the big moment for Patrice Bergeron, his 1,000th point, the big win against Tampa Bay. And he said, I feel they're going to be flat a little bit against Florida. And that's exactly what happened. That was not the Bruins' best game. They lost to the Panthers the other night. I think you're going to see them be better here on home ice. They're undefeated still at TD Garden this year. They're very good in these early starts, too. They've had a good long-term track record in these early home games, early afternoon games. And I don't want Carolina right now, so I guess I'd lean Boston here if I had to. But, Carolina's got to be ashamed after getting shut out by Arizona. I know they're not right at the moment. They're not playing their best hockey, not even close. But that's the lowest of lows right there when you're getting blanked 4-0 at home by the Arizona Coyotes. So you got to believe Carolina's pretty angry, pretty pissed off today, and they bring a good game. It's two teams, I think, in a bet-on spot. So I'm going to leave it alone, but there's definitely no way. I would be more reluctant to fade Boston right now than Carolina. So I lean Bruins, but I'm passing.
I'm interested in the under 6. I'm going to probably have to bet it during the show, unfortunately, but I'm interested in it, quite interested. Let's move on to 2 p.m. Eastern. Montreal Canadiens 10-9-1, 4-4-1 on the road. Chicago Blackhawks 6-10-3, 4-5-1 at home at United Center. I had Jake Allen listed. Not sure if it will be him or Montembeault. I don't know if anybody has that information. Jake Allen is not being good this year. Montembeault is starting to come back to earth, but he's had a great start. Arvid Soderblom has looked pretty good. This Blackhawks defense is not strong, and he's looked pretty good. 2-4-1, 3.19 goals against average, 9.09 save percentage. The Habs got their revenge with Columbus. They went in there and won 3-1. That was the second half of a back-to-back for them. They lost 7-2 at home to Buffalo the night before. And the Blackhawks are losing hockey games, and they're not, the puck line is cashing with every favorite that goes up against the Blackhawks. And I wonder if the Habs take care of business here. The Blackhawks are favored. Here. This opening line was minus 120 for the Blackhawks. It's down to minus 108, but it stayed at minus 120 for a while last night, but it's now at minus 108. From a total perspective, 6.5. It hasn't moved, juiced to the under. And I'm interested in the cash flow for this one. Let's just move over here with these two teams at a similar price point. 52% of the tickets and 61% of the cash on the Blackhawks. 53% of the tickets, 65% cash on the under. Take it away for us, Bobano. Habs, Blackhawks.
Yeah, I'm on Montreal, and if you can find a 6, I like the over. If you can only find 6.5, I'm a little bit more lukewarm about it. But I got it over 6 minus 120 right now at CoolBet. So that's what I locked in with. Again, shopping around is important. You find a 6 with a Chicago game, I've got to bet it over. I mean, this team's defense and goaltending is horrendous. It's fallen apart. What goalie do you trust? Mrazek, terrible lately since he's been back from his injury. And Alex B. Smith, my guy on the Ice Guys, Blackhawks fan, he's warning me, don't buy into Arvid Soderblom. He's going to become Arvid Soderbum before you know it. And that last start for him was not very good. Against St. Louis. I mean, I know he had some good starts before that, but when he got roughed up finally by the St. Louis Blues, and I'm being warned by my good friend Alex that don't trust this guy. He's not ready to be number 1 NHL caliber goaltending, and then a bad defense right now in front of him that's given up goals in bunches. Chicago's trending over the total. So over 6 minus 120, and I'm on the Habs plus 105 at because of the let me make sure I got the book right here. Yeah, Bet Rivers plus 105 on the Montreal Canadiens in this game. Yeah, I think they take care of business. Chicago can't hold a lead. Montreal got the win against Columbus. I'll really like Montreal more if Montembeault's in because I think he's been pretty solid. Allen, not so much. I probably like the over more if it's Allen. I probably like Montreal more if it's Montembeault, but I like them both enough to bet them. Montreal plus 105, over 6 minus 120.
You are locked in. More afternoon NHL action. We have a ton of it today. Toronto Maple Leafs 11-5-5, 4-3-2 on the road. Minnesota Wild 9-8-2, 4-5-1 at home. We're at XL Energy Center in St. Paul, Minnesota. Matt Murray is looking pretty good right now. He's looking pretty good. 3-1-1, 2.41 goals against average, 926 save percentage. There's a lot of talk about what he's going to be able to give to the Leafs in sports radio here. And I listened to a goalie coach saying that Murray's doing everything right now. He's doing everything right, and the goalie coach expects Murray to continue his success here, which we aren't. Well, I'll have to see it before I believe it. That's Matt Murray, Marc-Andre Fleury. And let's take a look at the line history here for this one. Of course, the Wild coming off offensive explosion, which they needed. This is a team that's low on confidence. Wild opening up at -102. They're now -112. From a total standpoint, it opened up at 6, and there's 6.5s now on the board. Although over 6.5 is at plus money, we'll probably be able to find a 6. The Leafs come in off stopping the New Jersey Devils' 13-game winning streak. When Lindy Ruff challenged that first goal, it was such a huge mistake. Such a huge mistake. You're going to lose all of the momentum because if you're wrong, they get a power play. And it was a pretty clear goaltender interference for me. And the whole game changed with that Leafs power play. Even though the Leafs didn't score on that power play, the whole game changed. And I blame Ruff. It was a bad coaching mistake. And the Leafs took advantage. For the Wild, they beat Carolina in overtime last week. I guess was that Saturday night to get a little bit of confidence. And then they smash the Jets on Wednesday night, 6-1. Take it away for us, Bobano. Leafs Wild.
Yeah, I mean, I've been burnt a couple of times trying to fade Minnesota. I mean, at the Carolina game, I should have won that, and they blew it late in the third period, and they lost. Obviously, dead wrong because I took Winnipeg the other night against Minnesota. I thought that was a great price. Jets playing good hockey. Minnesota, I didn't trust them as big favorites. They got fortunate to beat Carolina. No fortune in that game against Winnipeg. They flat out were better than Winnipeg and deserved the win. Controlled that game. And look, it was not a good night for Hellebuck either. Matt Murray has been very good, and he went from very good to spectacular in that New Jersey game. He was just phenomenal, and I'm impressed. I'm impressed. I'm not looking to fade him right now in net, and I'm not looking to fade the Leafs, but at the same time, I've been burned a couple times by Minnesota. Could this be an under? Toronto's kind of trending that. I noticed Toronto with the defensemen, because I got burned by this in the New Jersey game. I took over. I said, all these defensemen out, they're going to give up goals. They have to. But they really played a compact, tight style of play, even without Muzzin, Brody, Riley now out. Jordy Ben's week to week. So I don't know what the hell they're going to do with this group on the blue line right now. It looks like it's going to be Giordano, Hall, Sandin, Liljegren, Mete, and Hollowell as your starting defense here. You would think that's an over situation, but they really played tight against New Jersey. They tried to, and the forwards were coming back to help out this ailing blue line, the short-handed, depleted blue line, and back checked pretty well against New Jersey. So I kind of wanted to bet over, but seeing the way the forwards were really trying to help out the defensive side of it with all the injuries on the blue line and the way the goalies are playing, Murray, I think it might be Fleury coming back from Minnesota today. So I kind of taught myself out of the over, and now I might lean under.
I would love to bet the Leafs here and fade Fleury on his first game back. I would love to, but I can't do it with the defensive injuries that they have. I can't. And I don't want anything to do with the Wild. I think the Wild, they're going to be a decent team this year. I expect, I'm very confident in cashing the under 99.5 points that I bet at the beginning of the year, but I can't back the Leafs with the defensive injuries they have. And again, I'm the opposite. We've talked about this before. When the team's missing defensemen, I see them not pinching and not risking and I see a lower scoring game, and I see weaker outlet passes and that. So I'd love to bet the under, but I won't do it with Marc-Andre Fleury, and I'm not going to sit here and trust Matt Murray to continue his flawless play. So it's a pass for me, but let's keep rolling, Bobano. Next up, 2 p.m. Eastern, Calgary Flames 9-7-3, 3-3-2 on the road at Washington Capitals, 8-10-3, 6-4-1 at home, where Capital One Arena in Washington, D.C. I have Markstrom and Kemper, two goalies playing poorly. And I don't expect that either of them to change. And watch out, Markstrom. You may not be the starting goaltender here. I don't know if Calgary does believe in Vladar at all. It looks like they're going to be in the market for a goaltender and try to get one of these teams who is not trying to take on this contract like a Coyotes. Kemper, it's just, I don't think he's that good. And this Capitals team is not very good in front of him. I have them not to make the playoffs at plus 130 and the under 93.5 points for them. Let's take a look at the line history here for this one. Flames, Capitals. We have the Flames opening up at minus 120. And from a total perspective, it opened up at 6 and has dropped to 5.5. And from a cash flow perspective as well, I'd be curious here because there's similar numbers. We have 27% of the tickets and 38% of the cash is on Washington. And I don't want to fade Washington at home. I don't think there's going to be a lot of value for us doing that, but this is a Calgary or no bet situation for me. Calgary played Pittsburgh tough, lost 2-1 in the shootout, and Capitals did not look very good against the Flyers, but did snap their long losing streak. I'm interested in here, and let's see. This is Calgary's 5th game of their road trip. How long is this road trip? Let me just pull it up. Is this the end of it? Let me just get that here.
No, they got Carolina tomorrow night.
Carolina tomorrow night. So, yeah, this does not appeal to me here, but it would be Calgary or no bet. Would be Calgary or no bet. Take it away for us here, Bobano. Flames, Capitals.
It is Calgary, and it is a bet for me. Yeah, Calgary minus 118. You know, I'm high on the Flames. I'm a little disappointed with the little, inconsistency that I swear though. If you look at every Flames game, if you've been watching the Flames as much as I have, you'll agree with this take. Calgary has deserved to win more of the games that they've lost lately. Believe it or not, they've deserved better. They've deserved 2 points in so many of their recent losses. They've outplayed the teams. They're getting the better chances. They're carrying the play, and it's just every little mistake is in their net, and they're not sometimes scoring enough. And kind of the same against Pittsburgh the other night. They played a solid game. Could have went either way. They lost in a shootout. That's the way it's been going for Calgary. But they're playing better than the recent win-loss record would indicate, and I have no issues fading Washington when I think Calgary's clearly the better of these two teams in this price range, where it's less than minus 120 for me betting Calgary, minus 118 where I got it. Washington's beaten up to shit. They're not playing well. They are still riddled with injuries. And you talk about how Kemper struggled. Yeah, you don't have the Colorado blue line in front of you anymore. That's why. You're struggling. And also, you don't have Dmitry Orlov. And ever since Orlov's been out for the Capitals, he's their best shutdown defenseman. They've really been hurting on the back end. Still without Backstrom, Brown, Hagelin, Tom Wilson still out. At least they have Oshie back. But yeah, even since Oshie's been back here in the Philly game, you would think that's going to boost them quite a bit because their win-loss record is so much better when Oshie's healthy. But even in that game, it was not impressive. 3-2. Escape against a struggling Philadelphia team. So I think the price is cheap. Calgary for me, minus 118.
Yeah, I think the more I sit with it, I could end up with you here. The injuries that are decimating the Capitals are hurting. And Carlson came back and gave them a bit of a spark, but it just doesn't seem to be enough. Bobano, you're locked in here with the Flames at minus 118. Move on to more afternoon action. Ottawa Senators 6-12-1, 1-6-1 on the road at the Anaheim Ducks, 6-13-1, 4-4-0 at home. It's going to be a sleepy Honda Center today. Cam Talbot is back. 1-5, 2.83 goals against average, 910 save percentage. I'm excited. I hope he starts. I'm interested in seeing how he performs here. It should be a boost for the Senators. Their goaltending has been poor thus far. And John Gibson, we all saw it. I was on the Ducks first period and, got the push thanks to Mason McTavish because it was 1-0 Rangers and they tied it up. But Gibson looked really good. And I said that I've been seeing him show some signs that he could be back to his old form. And I hope he is. He's not an old guy, even though we feel like he's an old guy because he's been around for so long. This opened up with the Ducks plus 122, now at plus 128. This got down to plus 114. I want the Ducks, but do I really want to be involved in this hockey game in front of 7,000 or 8,000 people in Anaheim against two bottom-feeding teams? I don't know if I do. And it might be enough just to keep me off here. But Senators have lost the first two games of this road trip, and they've lost them badly. They've been outscored 9-2 by the Sharks and the Knights. And I wonder if the 3-2 win over the Rangers will galvanize these Ducks. But the market is telling me right now that I probably shouldn't bet the Ducks. I'm surprised that they're moving this line. I'm shocked that they're moving this line. I really am. Take it away for us, Bobano. Senators, Ducks.
So you're telling me a team that's struggling the way the Ottawa Senators are, without their best defenseman, Thomas Chabot, and the blue line's just been horrendous without him. They're 1-7 on the road, and you're telling me they're laying $1.50 in some spots in this game? No freaking way, my friend. I'm on Anaheim here. Quack, 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 quack. I like the Ducks here, up plus 130. And I've been waiting for a time to say Anaheim's going to get their shit together and get a little run going, get some positive vibes going. Maybe that's the Ranger game. Maybe they needed that. And look, you're right. Gibson, 40 saves? It was one of his best performances of the year. Maybe that gets him going a little bit here. But you can't lay -1. At least I can't. You can if you want. But I can't lay -150 on the road with Ottawa. I can't. I mean, they're just dreadful. They're 2-8. Jimmy Murphy, my colleague on the Ice Guys, also said the other day, DJ Smith may not make it through the weekend. That's where we're at right now with Ottawa. I mean, they are on the verge of making a coaching change. I know Pierre Dorion gave him a vote of confidence, not once but twice to the media the last month. We know how that works. That doesn't mean shit. You could give a vote of confidence to a coach one week and fire him the next. How many times have we seen that over the years? So to me, he's skating on thin ice, no pun intended. They just can't find ways to win. And now their offense has actually cooled off. They've scored just one goal in 3 straight games, this Ottawa team. They've trended under lately. So has Anaheim, believe it or not. But I kind of feel that in the early start game, this could be a little bit of an up and down game. I'm going to go with the over here as well, over 6 -125 at Bet Online. I think Ottawa is talking about trying to push their offense and get more creativity going, make better plays in the offensive zone. We've heard that a lot. So I think this game could open up a little bit with both of these, especially with Ottawa being desperate. But I like Anaheim as well at plus 130 at Bookmaker. I think definitely that is an inflated price on the road to lay it with a mightily struggling Ottawa Senators team.
Yeah, it's an extremely confusing line, and they're going to take a ton of Ducks money at this price. And to imagine that a team that's 4-4 at home going up against a team that's 1-6-1 on the road, that the 1-6-1 on the road team that's been outscored 9-2 in their first 2 road games would be -150 favorites is nuts. And I just, I'm not going to move on it. I just get a red flag for me with the way the market is, but I can understand anybody moving on the Ducks, and I'm sure that's all they're going to get is Ducks tickets here. And the fact that this line would move like that is just shocking, absolutely shocking. So we'll see. I'll be very curious to see how this pans out for you, Bobano. Ducks plus 130 for Ian and the over 6 -125. Move on to the Battle of Pennsylvania. Pittsburgh Penguins 10-7-3, 6-5-2 on the road. Philadelphia Flyers 7-8-5, 4-4-1 at home. We're at Wells Fargo Center in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Tristan Jarry starting to look a tiny bit better, but he's got a lot of work to do. Still has a 3.06 goals against average. Carter Hart 6-4-4, 2.68 goals against average, 920 save percentage. He's kept this team together. And I've told you, I think they're going to lose nonstop for the rest of the season. The Flyers open up at plus 200. They're now plus 193. From a total perspective, it opened up at 6.5, and it's now at 6. And the Flyers get up for these games. And I never want to be on a big favorite in the Battle of Pennsylvania. Right now, the bigger bets are coming in on the Penguins, but the sample size is very, very small. The Penguins coming off that 2-1 shootout win over the Flames. They've won 4 straight now. They had a really nice road trip, Minnesota, Winnipeg, Chicago, where they won all 3 games by the puck line. And the Flyers are losing, but they're coming close. They lost 3 of their last 5 losses have come in the extra session. Take it away for us, Bobano. Penguins, Flyers.
Yeah, I mean, this one is a pass for me. I decide I'm staying off it. I can't take Philly. I can't. I mean, they're just really in a rut right now. I mean, how do you take Philly with the center ice position being what it is? I mean, that's not an NHL center ice right now. I mean, Morgan Frost, Kevin Hayes, Patrick Brown, Lucas Sedlak, that's not a top four centers. That's not something that's bet on right there. That group of four at the center ice position with Konechny out and Lawton out and JVR and obviously Couturier hasn't played yet this year. I mean, you're really banged up front and you're struggling right now mightily. And even Carter Hart's play has kind of declined a little bit. The defensive game that was so airtight early in the year for Tortorella hasn't been the same lately. But at the same time, it's not a spot I'm rushing to take Pittsburgh. I mean, they've had two big games where Malkin was honored. They had the big moment with him. He has the 1,000th game, and he gets the winner the other night against Calgary. Now you're going on the road. You're facing Philadelphia here. It's not a spot I trust. And Pittsburgh is playing better, but they're not all of a sudden they're playing so much better. We're going to lay more than minus 200 with them here in a rivalry game, which you're right, is the one game Philadelphia would have definitely some extra spunk for, if you will, in a game like this. So, yeah, it ended up being a game where it's a pretty clear pass for me. I mean, I don't want Philly, but I'll be damned if I'm laying more than minus 200 in this spot.
I agree. It's Pittsburgh or nothing, and it's just too pricey for this type of a rivalry game. Let's move on. 7:30 p.m. Eastern. New Jersey Devils Buffalo Sabres is next up. Devils have their 13-game franchise-tying winning streak snapped by the Leafs. We talked a little bit about it when we were talking about the Leafs. Buffalo opening up at plus 141. They're now plus 134. It's a short line. I thought they'd be bigger dogs. This total opened up at 6.5, juiced heavily to the over. It's still there, juiced heavily to the over. And, this team is lucky that Comrie got hurt because management has decided to play him, even though he was the third best goaltender in training camp, and he's been the third best goaltender for the Sabres this season. And Craig Anderson, they're trying to not play him too much because his body just can't handle it. But I'm a Craig Anderson fan, and I love that he came back this year. Devils 16-4-0, 8-1-0 on the road. Sabres 9-11-0, 5-6-0 at home. We're at KeyBank Center. Vitek Vanacek has been very good for the Devils. 9-2-0, 2.14 goals against average, 9-17 save percentage. And Anderson's been okay. 4-3-0, 2.71 goals against average, 9-14 save percentage. Goals against average, excuse me. So let's take a look at the line. We did that. Let's take a look at just the last time for the Sabres because they were looking bad. They were losing games, and they started the road trip in Ottawa, losing 4-1, and then Toronto 5-2. And then they beat the Habs and then beat the Blues, and their offense is rolling right now. And I think that the low line tells you they're very, very live here. I think the low line tells you they're very, very live here. And I am interested in the Sabres, but it's probably too low of a number. Take it away for us, Bobano, Devils, Sabres.
I'm not only interested in Buffalo, I'm on Buffalo here in this game. This is the classic situation that I go to in every sport: baseball, basketball, hockey. Long win streak snap, very long win streak snap, hangover the very next game. A bubble burst theory. This is the bubble burst game for the New Jersey Devils here tonight, in my opinion. You had that big long win streak. It finally gets snapped. It's a coming back down to earth a little bit. And think about how it got snapped in that intense game, that bubbling cauldron of emotion and intensity in New Jersey the other night for that Leafs-Devils game. That's about as loud a crowd as I've ever heard for a Devils home game since the great era with Marty Brodeur and Niedermeyer and all those great Devils teams in the 2000s. And you lose that game. The fans were pelting the ice with garbage with the goals being called back. All that emotion and all, it's draining a game like that. And it was down to the wire. Toronto's hanging on at the end. You lose that game. I think there could be a hangover from that. And New Jersey might lose a couple now. And even if, and plus the Fat Buffaloes turned it around. They're playing better. They're scoring goals in bunches. All of a sudden, their penalty kill, which was wretched, 9 power plays faced in the last 2 games. They've only given up 1 power play goal, which is significant. Matthias Samuelsson helps this blue line. I said it the other day on the Ice Guys. I'm saying it again. He matters to this blue line. He's actually, for a young defenseman, only 22 years old, he's one of their better defensive-minded defensemen. He's good on the penalty kill. They had a 4-1 record, the Buffalo Sabres, in the 5 games he played at the beginning of the season before he got injured. and now he's been back, and they've won 2 games with him back. They're now 6-1 with Matthias Samuelsson in the lineup this year, the Buffalo Sabres. That's significant. And you got New Jersey in this spot where, they had their win streak snap. Buffalo playing good hockey. Buffalo had one of their better crowds of the season against St. Louis for a home game. I don't know if that's going to carry over to tonight, but certainly boosts the spirits a little bit when you finally see some fans turning out to see you play. I think it's a very vulnerable Devils team tonight, and certainly the price is good enough for me. Buffalo at plus price.
Plus 136 we can get you. I'm very, and it looks like Akira Schmid will be in that for.
He's actually been very good, that kid, Akira Schmid, so far. But can he keep it up? That's the question. Actually, we can get better than that. Plus 144, cool bet for the Sabres. We'll go with that. I'm going to go with the over too, Jimmy. I've been hemming and hawing on this. Over 6.5 minus 125 at DraftKings. I'm going to go ahead with that as well. I am worried Buffalo's playing a little bit better defense, but they're scoring in bunches. And, I don't trust Schmid in net for New Jersey, Akira Schmid, I should say. But I think it gets over the total. Plus the series history, it's been a lot of overs with New Jersey and Buffalo.
Locked in. Sabres plus 144, over 6.5 minus 125. Move on to Islanders at Columbus Blue Jackets. It's a big road favorite spot, which is not appealing, even though I love the Islanders and think there's a ton of value betting them. And I think they're a good hockey team. But minus 188 right now, opened up minus 190. From a totals perspective, it opened up at 6. It's moved to 6.5. That surprises me. That's just not the way the Islanders play. Sorokin versus Korpisalo. Korpisalo's been poor in 3.85 goals against average, 901 save percentage. Sorokin's been excellent, 2.20 goals against average, 934 save percentage. These Islanders, we were very confident in them against Edmonton, and they cashed it very easily for us. They have now 2 wins in a row. They beat the Leafs in Toronto to finish off a mediocre road trip. And then Columbus just can't be trusted. They're just not a very good hockey team. And Boone Jenner picked up his play, which has helped them immensely, but they're dealing with injuries. Their defense is weak, and I don't ever want anything to do with them. But is minus 190 too expensive, Bobano? Take it away, Islanders Jackets.
I can't believe they won the games they won with all the injuries. I mean, they beat Florida 5-3. That was a shocker. They beat Montreal 6-4 last week. Philadelphia in overtime when these injuries started. They're actually 3-2 in their last 5 games, even with everybody out. But I don't think it can sustain itself. Not when you're missing the artillery and the personnel the Jackets are. You're down 4 starting defensemen. 4. Jake Bean, Nick Blankenberg, Adam Boquist, Zach Werenski, all on IR. Patrick Laine on IR. Justin Danforth, who had a pretty good start to the year, on IR. Alexander Tessier is still out. Elvis Merzlikins on IR. It's just a ravaged hockey team. And I think it's going to be hard for them to keep winning with everybody that's out. And they lost, of course, 3-1 to Montreal. Their effort's been pretty strong, even as undermanned as they are. But it's very difficult. The Islanders have won 2 in a row, 2 nice wins against Toronto and Edmonton, back-to-back games. The Columbus did give the Islanders a game just a couple weeks ago on the island, 4-3 overtime win for the Islanders. 3 straight overs. The way Columbus is so ravaged defensively, I have to take a shot with the over here. That's what I'm going to look at, over 6 in this game. The Islanders, they have played under now 2 in a row, but you look at head-to-head with the Jackets, 3 straight overs, 4-3, 5-2, 4-3 final scores. In fact, each of the last 4 head-to-head meetings have been no fewer than 6 total goals. So I'm going to take a chance with the over here. Islanders can get a bunch of goals, I think, against this just depleted blue line. But I think Columbus could chip in a goal or 2 here as well. Maybe the Islanders, after, Toronto and Edmonton, 2 big wins, maybe they're a little lax on defense. So let's go over the total here.
Over 6 minus 110 over at 5 dimes. Ron Crawford in the house off for the holidays. He's given a spreadsheet play today's Islanders in regulation. I still think I might move on the Islanders minus 1. I expect the Islanders to continue playing at a playoff type pace. But shout out to Ron Crawford, Islanders in regulation. On to the Yotes, coming off a big 4-0 win in Carolina, 7-9-2, 6-7-1, making Clint proud. At the Detroit Red Wings, 10-5-4, 6-2-2 at home. I was angry that I didn't move on the Red Wings in that 3-0 win at home over the Predators. We're at Little Caesars Arena in Detroit, Michigan. And Carol Vomilka, he's the real deal. 6'5-1, 2.98 goals against average, 916 save percentage. Gary Wyatt in the house. What up, Gary? Great to see you. Brian Watson, Gary Tenebra, great group. Ville Husso, 8-2-3, 2.36 goals against average, 922 save percentage, and 3 shutouts. Clint says this team is too young and dumb to quit. Got our stars and Schmaltz and Chikrin back. Watch out. He says, watch out. Let's take a look at the line history here for this one. We have the Red Wings opening up at minus 196. They're now minus 189. I've said all year long that there's nothing to gain by fading these Coyotes. What you should do is back them, but I'm not going to do that. But the prices that they're being put out there's just – look, this team's won – they've only won 7 of 18 games in regulation, but they've – being in games and played hard. Let's take a look at I guess we've talked about the situation that they're in coming off a nice win at Carolina. Does that make them vulnerable here? Detroit needs to put a winning streak together. They're being good at home, 6-2-2 at home. And I've got Detroit to make the playoffs at a huge number, and they're over a point total. Take it away for us, Bobano. Coyotes, Red Wings.
There's definitely some truth to what you said about Arizona. Arizona's third in the NHL in profitability this year, by the way. Third. Wow. Number 3 in terms of units won, backing Arizona every single game to this point. Only Boston and New Jersey have been more profitable for their backers this year. If you back New Jersey in every game, you're up 10 units. If you back Boston in every game, you're up 8.5 units. And then there's Arizona, even with their 7-11 record, 7.84 units of profit. And it's because of all the big plus prices you've cashed with Arizona in their victories, in their 7 wins, including the plus price I cashed with them Wednesday night against Carolina. I took them, Jimmy, plus 320 against Carolina. I said Carolina's not playing the form of a minus 380 favorite right now. Right before Thanksgiving, massive flat spot. Vomilka playing that game in net. His father was in attendance to watch him in that game, and he put on a show. I mean, a shutout of Carolina, 4-0. It was just a phenomenal spot and price. And look, I ain't fading Arizona in this price range right now. I'm not. Their effort's been good every game, even with missing some guys in the line up front. And overall, they've been shorthanded, but they're still playing hard every night. I'm a little bit more hesitant to back them, though, tonight, because Detroit's playing good hockey. I like what I'm seeing from the Red Wings. I like what I'm seeing from Ville Husso in net. He's been terrific, and he's already been confirmed as the starter. He's really been sharp. He's really been on top of his game, seeing the puck well, 8-2 record. 2.36 goals against, 932 save percentage, shut out Nashville, held Columbus to just 1 goal. He's really played well, especially of late for the Detroit Red Wings. Clint, I know he's a Coyotes fan, but he does bring up good points. Arizona's done well against Detroit. Like I say, it's Arizona or pass at this price, but I like the way the Red Wings are playing. I don't know if I'll get there with Arizona tonight, but I'm certainly not looking to fade them and lay a price of this magnitude against this hockey team.
They're playing clean road hockey right now, which benefits unders, and Husso playing strong. And this Detroit offense isn't. Let's just go over their last few games here before I make a decision on this under, because I'm close to it. Let's just quickly look. And we have college basketball next and then NBA for us, but I guess they scored 13 goals in those 2 road games before they came home. But that was they scored 2 goals against the Ducks and 3 goals against the Kings. And the Coyotes just playing clean road hockey. I have interest in this under 6. I'll put that there. I'll look at it a little more before I decide to pull the trigger. But I think the way the Coyotes are playing on the road can cash that for us. Let's move on. 8 p.m. Eastern, just a few NHL games left. We have 4 games left before we get into college basketball. And we start with USC Trojans, Wisconsin Badgers, and we will have that game broken down before 1 p.m. here because that game pops off in 35 minutes. Blues, Lightning, Amalie Arena in Tampa Bay, Florida. The Blues 10-9-0, 5-5-0 on the road. Lightning 11-7-1, 6-3-1 at home. Binnington has stepped up after a bad start. I still think that they made the mistake keeping him and not having Husso as their number 1 goaltender. 2.98 goals against average, 905 save percentage. Vasilevsky's not gotten off to a good start. It's even worse than his start last year, where he didn't get off to a good start either. But We know what he is. He's the best goaltender of our generation, and there shouldn't be too much concern. Let's take a look at the line history here. Move this up. Here we go. We have the Lightning opening up at minus 170. They're now minus 196. A 26-cent move towards them. This total opened up at 6, minus 116 to the over. It's now minus 119 to the over. And they're playing as well as they can play. They're healthy, and they're playing as well as I don't expect them to be any better than this. The Blues had their winning streak snapped in that 6-2 loss at Buffalo. They're probably an angry group right now. The Lightning had their winning streak snapped in a 5-3 loss at home against Boston. Both squads are rested, especially the Lightning. Take it away for us, Bobano. Blues, Lightning.
Kind of want to take St. Louis here because there's another team that doesn't look right at the moment, and that's Tampa Bay. And this is a big price to be given the Blues off a loss that snapped their win streak against Buffalo the other night. But at the same time, the Blues are streaky. It feels like now after having that 7-game win streak snap, they lose, they go back in the tank again because they've been a streaky frickin' bunch this year, the St. Louis Blues. And I remember early this year, they had a great win streak, that brutal losing streak. Now they've won 7 in a row, and they have it snapped the other night. Do they go the other direction? And you got Tampa off a loss. Cooper said, when the game got away from us, we didn't get it back. You'd expect the Lightning to be better tonight in this game. You have two teams that are going to be trying to bring it here in this one with Tampa Bay and St. Louis. I think the over I'll go with here rather than St. Louis. I kind of lean St. Louis a little bit, but I'm going to go over the total. 3 straight overs in the series history. The total's only 6 here in this game. I think it'll find its way up and over. And I don't mind taking overs right now with Tampa with Vasilevsky still trying to find his A game. And clearly he hasn't to this point for the Tampa Bay Lightning. He's confirmed in net. Binnington for St. Louis. We'll see how he fares. He had a rough go against the Sabres, 6 goals allowed in that 6-2 game. They'll try to be better than that. His numbers are okay, but they're not spectacular. I mean, they've been winning games because they've been scoring goals lately, St. Louis. Like Binnington's got a 2.98 goals against, 905 save percentage. Those are okay numbers. They're not spectacular. So I think this game can go over the total. I lean Blues, but I don't know if I'll pull the trigger there because I've seen this movie before with the Blues. When they on a win streak, you ride them, and as soon as they lose a game, it's sometimes 4 or 5 in a row they lose. So I'm worried about that for them.
Yeah, I mean they're a funny hockey team,
streaky
right
bunch.
Now. Yeah, and they have big contracts to Thomas and Kyrou, and Kyrou was a minus 17 as of a few days ago. I'm not sure what he is right now, but he's not scoring, and the light is flickering in his net when he's out on the ice. Blues Lightning over 6 for Bobano. Let's move on to 8 p.m. Eastern. Seattle Kraken playing good hockey. Great road team right now. 5-1-1 on the road. 11-5-3 overall at the Vegas Golden Knights. 16-4-1. 7-3-0 at home at T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada. Martin Jones has shored up this weak goaltending. Grubauer, it was listed, but I'd still be surprised to see him in net. He's looked awful. 3.77 goals against average, 860 save percentage. Going up against Logan Thompson, who's been excellent, who looks like he'll win the Rookie of the Year. 11-3-0, 2.30 goals against average, 925 save percentage, 2 shutouts. He's earned the opportunity to be the starting goaltender here, and I think it's going to be his job for a few years to come. Vegas opening up at minus 192. They're now minus 183. The betting public making a lot of money off Seattle. This total at 6.5, minus 116 to the under is still there. That's where it is. It's at minus 116 to the under. The Kraken coming off that 8-5 win at home over the Sharks. I said I needed the goaltenders confirmed to take the over, and it wasn't the goaltending matchup that I was hoping for. And it still went 8-5, and I didn't bet it, and I was beating myself up for it. The Golden Knights coming off their 2nd straight win. They got back after a 2-game road trip. They lose in overtime in Edmonton, and then a great third period comeback against the Nucks to win 5-4. And then they beat Ottawa 4-1. I was wondering if they might be lazy off the hop. That's why I was on the Senators' first period. It was a 1-1 final. Take it away for us, Bobano, Kraken, Golden Knights.
So Seattle hasn't beaten Vegas ever in their franchise history. 0-5 head-to-head against Vegas. So this is one team they have not beaten yet since they've been in existence. But they have won 3 in a row. Beat the Rangers, the Kings, the Sharks. 3 straight wins at the end of that homestand. They ended up going 4-2 overall on that 6-game homestand. They're starting a road trip. Kind of a bet on spot when you start a road trip. I'm kind of intrigued by Seattle taking a shot at this price. I am, because for Vegas, you know, kind of a flat spot, I'd say. I mean, you've won 3 of the last 4. But again, that Seattle track record is pretty tough. They have, like I say, they've struggled against Vegas. We'll have to see who's in net. And what also concerns me too is, we finally saw the rose come off the bloom come off the rose a little bit for Martin Jones last game. We know at some point he's going to level off. He's been a lot better than anybody thought coming into this year, but he had the 5 goals allowed. Now they won because they scored 8, but finally he had a game where he struggled. We'll have to see who's in net. There's no confirmation if it'll be Thompson or Hill either on the Vegas side. So we'll see how this goes. I've got to lean to Seattle, but I don't know if I'll pull the trigger, and as of right now, I'm not.
There's very little reward fading the Kraken, although I'd like to do it at home. I think that they're going to be overvalued at home. On the road, they've just been so strong. And as you said, trying to break that goose egg in Vegas, I don't find it appealing. But Vegas playing spectacular hockey. There's no way around that. Let's move on to the next spot on the board. 2 games left before we get into college basketball. 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Winnipeg Jets 11-6-1, 4-4-1 on the road. Dallas Stars 12-5-3, 6-2-1 at home with American Airlines Center in Dallas, Texas. Hellebuck back to his 2019 Vezina form so far this year. 8-5-1, 2.35 goals against average, 9.28 percentage, 2 shutouts. And Ottinger playing well, 8-2-2, 2.32 goals against average, 9.24 save percentage, and 1 shutout. Winnipeg opening up at plus 146. They're now at plus 151. This total opened up at 6.5 and has dropped to 6. I'm surprised that we're getting the number that we're getting on Dallas here. I would expect them to be a little bit bigger favorites. And as well as Winnipeg has looked this year, it's at home where they eat. It's not on the road. They started their road trip with a 6-1 loss. They get beaten up to start their road trip, and that's why I can't fade them here, because you're sitting with that anger, and you're going to try to take it out on the Dallas Stars. If they had looked better in that game, I would be fading them for sure. But I think the market is expecting them to bounce back, and that's why the price is the way it is. Stars have won 3 of their last 4, coming off a 6-4 win at home versus the Blackhawks on Wednesday. Take it away for us, Bobano. Jets, Stars.
Yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it because they let me down big time the other night against Minnesota, but I think I'm going to come back to the well here. Winnipeg Jets at a plus price, even with the road issues. I'm going to look toward them here. I'm just going to see what the price is. I mean, to me, Dallas is showing a few cracks in the armor late. I mean, they've obviously played well for the most part this year. Yeah, you can get plus 150 at Pinnacle. So that's a good price right there for Winnipeg. That's a really good price. Actually, the best price by far that's out there. So hopefully people at Pinnacle out there or in Canada. But plus 150 with Winnipeg. I think after that embarrassment against Minnesota, you get them playing a lot better tonight. I think it's going to be Hellebuck, although it's just been confirmed that it's going to be Connor Hellebuck. Connor Hellebuck has a very strong long-term track record of him being bad one game and excellent the next. When he has a bad game, he's really good the next time out. This has been a repeated pattern of his in his career. I'd expect better from him tonight. And to be honest with you, Ottinger has not been, great since returning from his injury. He's had moments where he's looked like that stellar goaltender. But even in the last game, he gave up 4 goals against Chicago. He's given up 4+ goals, believe it or not, in 3 of the 7 starts since he's returned from injury. So he's definitely still trying to get back into regular form, regular rhythm and all that. And, like I say with Dallas, they beat Chicago and they were down 4-1. Let's not forget that, to rally and steal that game. 5 unanswered goals to win 6-4. They had the shootout loss to Colorado. They beat the Islanders. They survived Florida, who made a good comeback after a bad start. They lost to Tampa Bay in overtime. They played a lot of close games, is what I'm trying to say here, Dallas. They've not done things easily. And that's something you got to factor in when you're saying, let's lay minus 160 or more with the team, especially when you think you're going to get the opponent really chomping at the bit after a bad game, a bad performance the other night against Minnesota. So I think there's worse bets you can make than Winnipeg at a really rich plus 150.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. I get the look. I get the bounce back spot. Makes a ton of sense. One thing that I just want to mention for everybody is that when Pete
Lotus has returned to Dallas for the second time this year, they didn't get the win for him the first time. And I don't even remember if he was behind the bench the first time. I think that might have been one of the games where he was out with COVID. He had COVID. He had dizzy spells. He had all kinds of shit going on early in the season. He is behind the bench tonight. I think that's a factor too. Win one for the Gipper.
That's another angle that makes sense. But just a mentioned thing here is that it concerns Loshak enormously when Pinnacle's giving by far the best number on a spot on the board. It's one of those things where he takes as a red flag. An interesting little side note to keep an eye on. But I get your angles here on the Jets to bounce back. I get it. Let's move on to the final game on the board. And big shout out to Razor Sharp Picks, giving out 5 Pub Sports Radio memberships to our guys in the chat. You are a good man, Razor, and much love to you, my guy. Don't forget, tonight, 7:15 is when it pops off. The game at 7:30, Florida State, NCAA football, and Razor and Dabby Cab will be hosting it right here on Pub Sports Radio. Kings Sharks, final game on the card. Kings 11-9-2, 5-5-2 on the road. At the Sharks 7-12-3, 2-7-3 at home. SAP Center in San Jose. Quick has been poor for years now. And it's just going to hold the Kings back. There's no other way around it. Cal Peterson's not taking the job from him. So Reimer, on the other hand, has been decent, I guess. He's been okay. I mean, he's not a quality starting goaltender, but he's given San Jose some stability back there. Let's take a look at the line history here. This opened up with the Kings as road favorites at -130. They're now -137. From a total standpoint, opened up at 6.5 and is now at 6. The Sharks are 2-7-3 at home, and you can make a lot of money fading this team at home. They're not worth fading at all on the road. You're not going to get the right price, and they play pretty well out there. But they come home, and something is wrong with them. And maybe this is a perfect spot to fade them again. The Kings have lost 3 straight. They're an angry group. I think that they're going to be very live here against the Sharks. The Sharks had a 3-game homestand recently. They lose 7-4 to Detroit. We were all over Detroit in that game. Then they lose 2-1 to the Rangers, and they played pretty well and then beat Ottawa badly 5-1. Coming off an 8-5 loss, are the Sharks vulnerable here, Bobano? Are you making a move?
What I've been betting with San Jose repeatedly lately is team total over. And it's just been cash. And they're only 2.5 the team total was 2.5 against Seattle the other night. I couldn't believe it. I mean, this team has scored at least 3 goals. I believe 11 of the last 12 of the last 13 games, something like that. I mean, that's not been an issue for San Jose during this stretch. Yeah, it goes back to the Toronto game on October 27th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 12 of the last 13 games, they've scored at least 3 goals. And look, defensively, they've got issues. We know that. We just saw them give up 8 to Seattle. We know Reimer and Kokkonen are not goaltenders we trust, but we do see some offense from them. We see Hertl playing well. We see Meyer playing well. Couture's chipping in, playing great. LeBanc has been good on the top line. This Barabanov kid they got for nothing from Toronto has really been a little bit of a spark for San Jose lately. I like over 2.5 here. It's a little juicy, -150, but I got to ride it at this point. I mean, over 2.5, -150, bet online, team total over. Got to take it. Now, the Kings are probably ornery. Kings are probably in a, cheesed off mood, angry mood. That's been a rough little 3 games now. After that big win against Edmonton, that revenge spot, they played a perfect defensive game against McDavid and Draisaitl that night. They haven't won since then. So you got to think LA is going to be not overlooking San Jose. But let's also not forget, Jimmy, this team has been a nightmare, San Jose, for the LA Kings. San Jose's 8-2 in the last 10 meetings. It's been, for some reason, the Kings have struggled repeatedly against the San Jose Sharks. So, again, the focus should be there. 1-6 in the last 1-5 in the last 6 meetings in San Jose for the Kings, and then 2-8 in the last 10 overall. So this has been a team that's had their number. San Jose has had LA's number, so concerns me a little bit. But I think you get LA stepping up. But so I'm kind of back and forth. But I got to ride the team total. I just have to. It's 3+ goals for the Sharks, 12 of the last 13 games. So I'm going to go with over 2.5 -150 San Jose team total.
You got it. I'm locked you in there. I am going to be on the LA Kings. Ricky Levine saying they struggle in San Jose. This is not the same Sharks team. Although, I mean, you mentioned the 4 forwards that you mentioned who have been playing well. We're all part of those Sharks teams. But I think this is an angry Kings team. They're now 11-9-2. We expected more from them, and I expect them to beat the Sharks here and snap their 3-game
Sean
lead.
Dursey out tonight, and that guy's good. So that's a concern too for LA. The injuries are mounting again for them. So that's also played a part.
No, I feel you. But I'll dive into it a little deeper, but I expect to be on the Sharks -1. Let's get into college basketball, but review all action here. I would like to be on this under 6 in Carolina, Boston. I'll have to bet it here in the next 19 minutes. And I guess I will. I think I will bet this here in the next 19 minutes. Under 6 -115. Let me just quickly. I expect to move on it. Let me just see what this line history has done here once more on the total. 19 minutes away for that, and see if there's been any movement. I used to love unders in Boston, and I had no problem taking 5.5s. And Carolina's going to be an angry group, and they're going to play a road game. The type of road games they play are really tight. So I expect to be on the under 6. I think I'll bet that in the next 19 minutes. Bobano gets his card started with Montreal, Chicago over 6 at -120, and he's on the Habs at +105. Next up, Maple Leafs Wild. We stayed off. Bobano's on the Flames -118. I guess you're right. This is the team that's 3-3-2 on the road. It's just not going to cut it. And Washington is a vulnerable team. They are still pretty good at home. They're an easy fade on the road, but 6-4-1 at home. I guess I will roll with you on that Flame spot. Bobano's on the Ducks +130 and the over 6 at -125. Anytime I see a line like this, it keeps me off of it. The fact that the Ottawa team that's 1-6-1 on the road would be a -150 favorite is nuts. Penguins, Flyers. I can't take the Penguins at this price in a important rivalry game, Battle of Pennsylvania. Bobano's on the Sabres and the over 6.5. I was hoping to get a bigger line on the Sabres, but I completely agree with the breakdown. So I just hoping, I was expecting a much bigger line, but I guess the market's saying the Sabres are very live today. I will be on the Islanders on the road at the Columbus Blue Jackets on the -1 line. Bobano's on the over 6 in that game. I'll be on the under 6 in Arizona, Detroit. Bobano's on the over 6 in St. Louis, Tampa. We stayed off Kraken, Golden Knights. Bobano's on the Jets at +150 and the Sharks team total over 2.5. And I will be on the Kings -1. That is our NHL breakdown today. Let's get into college basketball because our first game pops off in 17 minutes. The battle for Atlantis, USC Trojans versus Wisconsin Badgers. And these Trojans are coming off a big win over BYU. I don't even know if that's the last game they played. Let me just pull that up, though.
No.
They played yesterday, didn't they?
They played Tennessee yesterday, yep. In overtime, they lost. Yep.
In overtime, they lost. It was a terrible mistake for me to take too much of those first couple of home games that USC had played. They're clearly better than that, and I made the mistake of backing BYU, although the season's been a great start to the season. USC, Wisconsin here. So we have another situation. Now, we cashed on an under with Creighton, and Creighton scoring and Arizona scoring outrageous numbers. But the idea was that, this is their third game in 3 days. How are they going to fare? And they got off to a really fast start, and then we cashed the under. Wonder if something similar going on here. The USC coming off tough games. BYU came back in that game, losing just 82-76. Tennessee, 73-66 in overtime, USC losing. And Wisconsin coming off a really tough overtime game in Kansas as well. Let's go over to the line history. This one pops off in 16 minutes. Let me pull this up right now. 16 minutes before this one pops off. And, of course, the Mary Baldwin fighting squirrels in action as well. I know everybody wants to talk about that game here. Let's pull this up. USC, Wisconsin. USC opening up as a pick 'em. They're now +1.5. It's the total that interests me the most, but it's been hammered down to the under. Too late for me. 129 it opened this morning at 8:24. It's now 125. A 4-point move to the under. We take a look at cash flow. Is there enough tickets in for us to talk about these spots? And I'll have to refresh to get this going. Why don't you take it away here? Let's not waste any more time. This game pops off in 15 minutes. There is 1,223 tickets in. 21% of the tickets, 49% of the cash on USC, and the market moving towards Wisconsin. That's interesting. And then 62% of the tickets and 53% of cash on the under, and a 4-point move to the under. Take it away, Bobano. This game pops off in 15 minutes. USC, Wisconsin.
Yeah, for me, it would be only USC. I wouldn't trust Wisconsin. A tough loss against Kansas yesterday. I really still think this team's pretty bad offensively. They rely a lot on Wall, and they don't have a whole lot. Tyler Wall, and they don't have a whole lot outside of that. I mean, they barely beat Dayton, and they scored 43 points. Their defense is pretty good, but you got to be able to score a little bit. And, USC had a game where they had a loss against Florida Gulf Coast, and I think everybody kind of just soured on USC too. This is a really good team, I think. And they played well since then, lost to Tennessee in overtime yesterday in a game that was back and forth. I like USC here at a +1.5. I'll make that official here. I just don't buy Wisconsin's offense as favorites. And look, Dayton, the team they beat by 1, Dayton was destroyed by NC State last night. So that's not really all that impressive, beating Dayton even. Dayton's kind of been up and down this year. So I like USC here. We'll make that official.
We can get you a +2 at -103 there. +2,
Yep.
-103 for Bobano backing USC. Let's move on to a fun one. 2 p.m. Eastern. This is the only at on the board. Rest of the games are verse. This one is an at. San Francisco Dons 6-0 at the Davidson Wildcats, 5-1, 2-0 at home. We are in Davidson, North Carolina for this. And San Francisco's looked very strong to start the year. Keep on winning, and we've been cashing with them. Davidson coming off back-to-back wins, beating South Carolina 69-60 and Old Dominion 66-61. Let's go over to the line history in this one here, and it's another situation where the Dons have opened up as a slight dog, but they became a favorite. They became a favorite around 9:15 in the morning. They're back to being a +1.5 point dog. From a total perspective, they opened at 145, and they're now at 146.5. And if we can get a look at the cash flow on this one, that should be up here, and there should be a decent amount of tickets. Not really. They have given not really. 844 tickets in, 38% of the tickets, 48% of the cash on Davidson and market moving towards them. And then 64% of the tickets, 90% of the cash on the over. Take it away for us, Bobano, San Francisco, Davidson.
Very good game. I'm interested to see how both of these teams play. And both of them have started out well. Only a loss to College of Charleston, the only blemish for Davidson between these two teams. Really good starts to the season, both of them. Of course, San Francisco, their team, of course, new coach this year for them after Todd Golden went to Florida. They've got Chris Gerlofson now as the coach there. It looks like in terms of their pace numbers, when you look at it too, they're still playing extremely fast, 25th in terms of pace. So that hasn't changed. It certainly has me leaning toward over. Davidson, we know their tempo is slow, but they're very efficient offensively. That's the way it's always been. It was the way it was under Bob McKillop. His son, Matt, is now the head coach. So I think when you look at it, they're going to be able to have some success offensively like they always do. I think the key matchup here is San Francisco's perimeter defense, which has been a little bit of their weak link. I mean, they're a good defensive team, but much weaker against three-point shooting. And that's where Davidson thrives with that 36% team free throw shooting. But San Francisco, a much better rebounding team than Davidson. So it's kind of a game where I think Davidson can have offensive success shooting the three. San Francisco's got the potential here in this game with the size advantage, the rebounding numbers in their favor to be able to get second, third chance looks in this game, be able to take advantage of that. So this total is what I'm aiming at here, 146.5 at DraftKings. I'm going to make that official. San Francisco Davidson over the total.
Let's get you that. Big shout out to Jay Peasy, $10 dono. Happy Thanksgiving, my man. Thank you for thinking of us. And let's get this over for Bobano with the Dons in action here at the Wildcats. We have San Francisco. We have a 146.5 at -107 for you. Bobano over 146.5. at -107. All right, we move on and we head to Portland, to the Moda Center for the Phil Knight Legacy. We're hammering all the Phil Knight Legacies and Phil Knight Invitational games here today. And thank you, JPZ, my man. There was not a Frank spotting today, know something, but he got the last laugh. My winning streak came to an end in that game. 8 ranked Duke Blue Devils 5-1 versus the Xavier Musketeers, who are 4-1 on the season. Let's see what we are dealing with from a line history standpoint. We have Duke opening up at -3. They're now -4. From a total perspective, it opened up at 147. It's popped up a point to 148. Let's see if we can get a cash flow here. Move over here. See if we can pop this up. Sorry, move over here. By the way, Duke coming in with 3 straight wins, beating Oregon State yesterday, 54-51, and that was a tight one. Bellarmine, they beat 74-57 3 days prior. Xavier bounced back off their loss to Indiana by beating Florida at 90-83 here yesterday. This is the second game for both squads in the tournament, and I will have to find this Duke spot. Where the hell is it? It's going to take me a second to. Oh, there we go. 882 tickets in. 48% of the tickets, 84% of the cash on Duke. And then 57% of the tickets, 57% of cash on the over. Take it away, our guy, Bobano. Big one here in the Moda Center. Duke, Xavier.
Yeah, I was trying to consider and back Duke here, but now that where the number is, I'm off it. Because I do still think John Shire is trying to figure out his rotations. I don't think he's very settled on what his team is going to look like. And it's not like Duke has been terrific in their step up in class games so far. I mean, even yesterday, that's Oregon State is nothing to write home about. And they escaped as 21.5-point favorites, 54-51. They had the loss against Kansas at the Champions Classic as well. So those are the two games where they've played someone of note, and 0-2 against the spread. They were life and death to beat Oregon State. I was looking to bet against Xavier coming into the year. I did with the Indiana, and I'll take it. Last week, actually, it was last Friday. I had Indiana on my card against Xavier, and they escaped with the win. I took them on the money line. Indiana won 81-79. But I've been impressed with Xavier, even with that loss. They beat a pretty solid Florida team, 90. They're very good offensively. No question about that. They've gone over the total in every game. They're playing pretty fast under Sean Miller. Like I say, they've got multiple scores. This Xavier team, I've been very impressed. Colby Jones is outstanding. 22 points for them in the win against Florida yesterday, shooting the ball with extreme confidence early in the year. With the number where it is now, I'd pretty much lean Xavier now, but I'm going to stay off because I do think I don't want to be against Duke when they finally flip the switch and they play, because they've got a really good team. I mean, the big guy is really talented, Kyle Filipowski for the Blue Devils. I think their backcourt, there's still there's some things that Shire's trying to figure out with that. I think they're not a finished product there with Roach and company. They've been up and down so far this year in the backcourt, but I think Duke, I was looking to back them. Unfortunately, now it's 4.5. I'm out at that number. Totals wise, Xavier, I'm only looking over, but in a game of this magnitude, I might pump the brakes on.
I get it. It's a good breakdown. It makes sense. Jake Burns had Xavier yesterday at the plus 150. Deacon Mike betting Missouri State team totals. He cashed with these Missouri State team totals all year last year. And I know they only had 2 returning starters, but he knows this team inside and out, and he put a lot of money in my pocket with Missouri State team total overs. Thank you for sharing that with us, Deacon, my guy. We move on. 5:30 p.m. Eastern. We stay in Portland. Head over to the Veterans Memorial Coliseum for the Phil Knight Invitational. The number 1 ranked North Carolina Tar Heels 5-0 versus another undefeated team, the Iowa State Cyclones. North Carolina opening up at -5. They're now -6. This total opened up at 142.5. It has dropped to 140. And cash-wise here, we have North Carolina, just 756 tickets in, but 74% of the tickets, 75% of cash on them. 27% of tickets are on the under, but 63% of the cash. So it looks like some sharp action there. North Carolina didn't look great in that tournament opening win, 89-81 over Portland last night. And Iowa State beat Villanova in overtime for their 4th straight victory to start the season. And that was their first true test that they've had, and they passed it. Take it away for us, Bobano, North Carolina, Iowa State.
Yeah, I'm going to look toward the Cyclones here. And North Carolina, when you look at their resume so far, they beat up Charleston, but again, they're going to play up and down, up and down. Portland, same thing, and they struggled defensively against a Portland team. Watch out for them in the West Coast Conference. I mean, they could actually be the next best team in that conference after BYU, St. Mary's, and Gonzaga. Honestly, that's how good Portland could be this year. That's a solid team. That's a great coach there as well. Iowa State with the overtime win against Villanova. I've been impressed with them defensively so far this year. And you got to think that on a neutral court, it's actually going to be defense that maybe keeps them in this game. I think it's got a good chance to do just that. Again, you got to contain Armando Bacot, one of the best big men in college basketball. Caleb Love, outstanding. Two of the guys that were on this team last year that went all the way to the championship game for Hubert Davis. But, when you're looking at it, their bench production's been bad. The Cyclones have actually brought it very strong on the defensive side end of the court here. Otzelberger's a solid coach. When you look at it and what he's done here with Iowa State, 4 players averaging double digits in scoring, including Jaron Holmes, has been very good for them. I think we got a competitive game here. I mean, I know North Carolina is the name commodity, the team that went all the way to national championship last year. But I think giving 5.5 points to a very capable defensive team like Iowa State is in a game that I think is competitive is too much. So I like the Cyclones here.
Cyclones, let's lock you in with them right now. Iowa State coming off that overtime game yesterday. Total went from 142.5 to 140. And from a point spread perspective, let's get this up here for you and get you Iowa State +6 at -110 over at Pinnacle. Lock that in. Iowa State for Bobano. Iowa State +6 at -110. You are on the board. Next up for us, we go to a Cyclones game, to a Hawkeyes game. Number 25th ranked Iowa Hawkeyes, undefeated as well this year, versus Clemson Tigers. This will be a tough test. We're in Niceville, Florida, for this one. These Hawkeyes coming off destroying Omaha, Nebraska 164. They won at Seton Hall 83-67 previously. That was an impressive victory. Clemson lost a bit of a surprise to South Carolina a few games ago and have bounced back since, but not against very tough competition. Let's take a look at the line history for this one. This one pops off at 7 p.m. Iowa, Clemson. Iowa opening up as 8-point favorites, now 8.5-point favorites. This total opened up at 148. It's now 149. And when we take a look at the cash here in this one, it's going to take me a second to find it. Here we go. Iowa, Clemson, just 731 tickets in, and it's Iowa being back. 54% of the tickets, 69% of the cash, and 31% of tickets, and 68% of cash on the over. Take it away for us, Bobano, Iowa, Clemson.
This one I don't want to lay this many with Iowa. I think Iowa is the better team, laying 7, and they've been impressive. They've won and covered every game, but again, sisters of the poor for the most part. Although Seton Hall was very impressive, 83-60. So Seton Hall's a good team. Of course, Holloway now has gone there. The former St. Peter's coach did a great job there, made that great tournament run coaching Seton Hall now. So Iowa does have at least one win against a pretty good team. This is about as good as I've ever seen Iowa play defense. And this has never been a team that's been great defensively under Fran McCaffrey. So maybe that is a sign they're ready to get things rolling. I can't back Clemson, and I won't. So I guess if I had to, I'd lean Iowa, but I don't feel comfortable laying this many. Clemson's not been great. I think their defensive play has been up and down. They've been able to score a bit, but certainly defensively, it's come and gone for them. When they did play a little bit of a better opponent on their schedule, South Carolina, they lost that game, and South Carolina is going through some changes this year and retooling, if you will, and they ended up losing to South Carolina 60-58. So, there is a difference between these two teams right now, but I just don't want to lay this many with Iowa, so it's a pass.
A pass. Let's move on to a fun one here next up for us. Back to the battle for Atlantis in the Bahamas. Number 22 ranked Tennessee Volunteers versus the number 3 ranked Kansas Jayhawks. Let's go to the line history for this one. Kansas opening up at +2, now +1.5 from a total side point. Opening up at 135. Big drop to the under, down to 131.5. This is their third game in 3 nights for both squads. Tennessee opened up by smashing Butler, beating USC in overtime, and Kansas opened up by beating NC State and then defeating Wisconsin 69-68 in overtime last night. Take it away for us. Third game in 3 days for both squads. Volunteers, Jayhawks.
Great game. So I'm really frustrated with Tennessee because I faded them after that brutal game against Colorado, and it's like that game was a wake-up call for them because they've been a totally different team ever since, and they've looked like a national title contender caliber team since that game against Colorado. So I've got to give them credit. That was a wake-up call. They crushed Florida Gulf Coast. They destroyed Butler, who are a solid defensive team, and then they beat USC in overtime yesterday. So they played a lot better, no doubt about that. They are an experienced group. There's no question. This group, Tennessee squad, Vescovi's been around for a long time. They've got Phillips. They've got Ziegler. They've got definitely some guys that have been around the block for Tennessee, and they're starting to play up to their talent level. But Kansas has been good, 5-0. They have a win against Duke on their resume, beat a solid NC State team. Not pretty against Wisconsin, but they squeaked it out 69-68. I'd probably lean Kansas, especially now when you see Tennessee favored. But, I've been beaten going against Tennessee a couple of times. I'm not sure I'm willing to do so again, so I'm off the game. Great game to watch, but for me, nothing to bet.
Head over to Kissimmee, Florida, State Farm Fieldhouse for Oklahoma Seton Hall. This is the ESPN Events Invitational. Sooners 4-1. Pirates also 4-1. Let's take a look at the line history for this one. Oh, by the way, cash-wise in that Kansas-Tennessee game, there's a small amount of tickets in, but it's all the money is on Kansas. 61% of the tickets and 99% of the cash is on Kansas. And then it's 50-50 on the total, but 93% of the cash is on the under. And we've seen the market worried about that, moving 3.5 points towards that under. Let's talk about this one here. Seton Hall, Oklahoma. Oklahoma opening up as 2.5-point dogs, now 2-point dogs. It did get to 3, though, but it's back to 2. This total opened up at 128. We're now seeing a 127 here. And move on this one. Let's pull up the cash flow. I will have to find the spot. But Oklahoma, 4 straight wins after that season opening loss to Sam Houston. 4 straight wins coming off beating Nebraska 69-56 here at the ESPN Events Invitational yesterday. Seton Hall opened their tournament here with the 70-69 win against Memphis. 2 4-1 squads meeting up here. Bobano, let me see if I can grab the cash flow, and it's going to take me a second to find it. Why don't you begin your breakdown while I find it? Take it away, Oklahoma, Seton Hall.
Oh, I like Seton Hall here, especially if Josiah Johnson plays, and I think he's going to. I don't see him on the injury report, but I was on Seton Hall yesterday. They beat Memphis 70-69. I think they're honestly further ahead than Oklahoma. I mean, Oklahoma had lost to Sam Houston State in their first game. They played Pine Bluff, Wilmington, South Alabama, a really weak Nebraska team. They haven't played anybody in Seton Hall's stratosphere, in my opinion. A very good defensive team, extremely well coached. And I think they're going to be a little bit too much for Oklahoma to handle. That defense can really get after it when they're on their game, and I think you're going to see that here. Oklahoma really struggle to make their shots. I'm going to go with minus 140, I believe, on the money line, and I always do that with the short favorites. And I'm even more apt to do that on the neutral court because you could get this shenanigans and fouling late in the game, and I try to avoid that if at all possible. So I will go with Seton Hall here and just go on the money line with Seton Hall, minus 132 at Pinnacle.
Minus 132. You are locked in on Seton Hall. Next up for us, another big one. We have 2 games left here on our card, and this one's going to be a lot of fun. I wanted to talk about it. UConn Huskies, undefeated Huskies. They opened up their Phil Knight Invitational with the easy 83-59 win over Oregon. And Oregon, we have 3 games left. Oregon will be the final game that we break down here on the card. So we have the common foe, UConn beating up Oregon, and Alabama beating up on Michigan State 81-70 to get their tournament started here. Let's take a look at the line history in this one and the cash flow here. And I was talking about the Seton Hall game. 70% of the tickets, 77% of the cash on that Seton Hall spot. But here we are. Let's pull up the line history for this one. UConn Huskies in action. Why can't I? God, so many. Here we go. The Huskies open up as 1-point dogs. That's where they are right now. There's been just a 6-cent move 6-cent move over to Alabama. From a total side of things, opening up at 150, now at 149. And we have just 378 tickets in, 55% of tickets, 81% of cash on Alabama, 56% of tickets, 89% of cash on the under. Take it away for us, Bobano, a big one here, UConn, Alabama.
Very big one. Very big one. So UConn beat an Oregon team that's clearly had some issues early in the season. Oregon does this every year. They're not very good in November. They get better under Dana Altman as the season goes on. And then by the time March rolls around, they're dangerous. It's probably what we're seeing. And UConn just destroyed them. But I don't want to make too much out of it because Oregon's, kind of going through some early season issues. But at the same time, Alabama's win yesterday, Michigan State is depleted. They're shorthanded. A lot of injuries with the Spartans, and Alabama took advantage of that. So both of these teams coming off wins against teams that have some flaws right now. Oregon's not playing great, and UConn beat them. And Alabama beat up a Michigan State team that is beat up with a lot of injuries, shorthanded, a lot of key players out for the Tom Izzo and crew last night. So which team do you trust more? I think I trust UConn. I really like UConn's defense a little bit. With Alabama, there's a lot of defense out of the lineup for Michigan State. They made some shots that they typically, don't trust them to make every single game. They've had, some better offensive performances. Their three-point shooting has improved. It had to after last year. It's gotten to the point where they're middle of the pack in the country three-point shooting, and they were terrible shooting the three last year. But UConn's got some excellent defensive numbers. So does Alabama as well so far early in the season. But I'm telling you what, Alabama played really a depleted Michigan State team and nobody else so far this year, because even the game against Liberty, which was supposed to be a pretty solid, Liberty's been terrible. Liberty has been so disappointing early in the year, so I can't even give Alabama too much credit for that. Meanwhile, you got UConn. They played Oregon, obviously tested there. Buffalo's a solid team. They won that game handily. They've really, really been impressive at the defensive end, and defense travels. I've got to look toward UConn here. I'll make UConn official, actually, especially now that they're a slight dog.
Let's get you UConn here. I've got this set up for the next game, but I can pull up the best number for the Huskies. Do you want the money line or the +1?
+1. Yeah, we'll do +1.
All right, you got it. We'll get you the best line available, and it looks like that is +1 at -102. +1 at -102 for UConn. And Bobano, UConn +1 at -102. All right, let's move on to the next game. 11:30 p.m. this evening. Back to the Moda Center for this 24th ranked Purdue Boilermakers, undefeated versus the number 6 ranked Gonzaga Bulldogs, 4-1. Gonzaga bounced back from that 19-point beatdown they received from Texas by beating Kentucky by 16 points, 88-72. That was 5 days ago. So they're beginning their tournament here tonight. Purdue began their tournament yesterday by beating West Virginia 80-68. Take a look at the line history. I know this opened at 5.5. I believe it's at 6.5 now. Let's just see what Pinnacle did here. And we have, Pinnacle actually opened this up with Gonzaga at -5. Now we have them at -6.5. And from a total perspective, it opened up at 151.5, and now it's at 152.5. And we take a look at the cash for this one, 617 tickets in, and all the big bets are coming in on Gonzaga. 67% of tickets, 90% of cash. The ticket count is 50-50 for the total, but 87% of cash is on the under, yet it's gone up a point. Take it away for us, Bobano, Purdue, Gonzaga.
Yeah, really fascinating game here with Gonzaga, who's kind of been all over the map, really, Gonzaga. I mean, they beat Michigan State, but escaped on the USS Abraham Lincoln. They got crushed by Texas. They turned around, they crushed Kentucky, and then they played Portland State last night, and they pretty much had their way offensively. It was a great matchup of big men, two of the better big men in the entire country, head-to-head in this game, which can be fun to watch. If you're an old-school basketball fan, you like two quality centers going head-to-head. Zach Edey for Purdue, the 7-footer, and, of course, Drew Timme for Gonzaga. Doesn't get much better than that. It's going to be a fun matchup to watch in the paint. And, look, Edey has been impressive. Edey's been terrific. He's been a double-digit scorer. He's a double-double machine for this Purdue squad. But the problem is this year they don't have the backcourt around Edie that they had last year. Remember, Jaden Ivey's gone to the NBA now. So you've got some question marks there. They got Fletcher Lawyer transferred over, though, from Davidson. That's supposed to be a big component for them, but they have Braden Smith and Ethan Morton. But yeah, a lot of their offense this year, they were more inside out last year, Purdue. They're more just feed Edie, and the offense works around him essentially this year. That's the way it's going. And that's why it's an important matchup with Timmy. Is Timmy going to have the foot? And Timmy's got good footwork. That's the thing. He can maybe keep up with Edie in the paint, but it's going to be a great matchup to see how that unfolds. Gonzaga's defense was the concern in the exhibition. They had that game against Tennessee where they just had a horrible defensive game. And to be honest with you, their defensive play has been lapsing. Their transition defense at times has been really poor, Gonzaga. And that's something to watch for moving forward. As far as this game tonight, when you talk about transition defense kind of struggling, Purdue doesn't play fast. They kind of walk up the ball up the court. They're 305 in tempo, so it's kind of a pace war, if you will. Gonzaga plays lightning fast. Purdue slows it down, wants to play in the half court. So I don't know if Purdue's going to be able to take advantage of the weakness we've seen with Gonzaga's transition D because they just don't push the basketball very much. But I do feel it's a little inflated. I kind of lean Purdue here plus 6.5. I think it's a competitive game when it's all said and done. I don't know if I'm going to pull the trigger, but I'm definitely leaning toward Purdue here. And with the number climbing up, I'm getting more interested in it. Let me just see if there's a 7 out there right now, and I don't think there is, but I definitely would be involved in it. You know what? There is actually at Proline Plus. I think that book's amazing. You can Proline Plus 7.5 minus 118 on Purdue. Sign me up for that. Plus 7.5 minus 118 at Proline Plus.
Plus 7.5 minus
too many
118.
Points.
I like it. I think Purdue can stay close here. I like that look, and I like that number a lot. Let's move on to our final game in college basketball before we bid Bobano farewell. You've been excellent here today, Bobano. Oregon Ducks 2-3 versus Michigan State Spartans 3-2 at Veterans Memorial Coliseum in Portland, Oregon. The big story here, Malik Hall's foot injury. He's going to be out for about 3 weeks, they think, averaging 12.3 points and 5.3 boards and playing 32 minutes a game. It's going to be a big loss for Michigan State. Michigan State opened up as 2.5-point favorites. They're now 2-point favorites, and this total has just had a 6-cent move to the under 135. Let's take a look at what we've seen from these squads lately here at the Phil Knight Invitational. We just talked about Oregon getting beaten up badly by Connecticut. That came on the heels of a 10-point loss against Houston. Two very, very tough basketball teams. Michigan State has had a very tough opening schedule as well. After losing by a point to Gonzaga, they beat Kentucky in double overtime. They beat Villanova by 2 points. And then to start this tournament, they lose to Alabama by 11 points. And let's see if I can give you guys a cash flow on this one. Might be listed for the following day. I'll have to look for it, so I won't be able to get it. But why don't you take it away for us, Bobano? Here we have our final game at midnight. Oregon Ducks, Michigan State Spartans. Take it away.
This one's a real tough one. Oregon's not playing well, but Oregon is still healthier than you. Got to think. You got to lean to Oregon +3 here, plus 2.5, +3. I mean, Michigan State is really shorthanded. We're seeing the effects of it. That was a tough night for them against Alabama. We'll see if they get any of their injured players back. But being without Jaden Akins, being without Malik Hall is certainly a huge blow for them. I mean, two guys they really rely on, and not going to have either one going into this game. Oregon's struggling mightily offensively. They're only shooting 43%, only 66 points per game. Michigan State's offense hasn't been nearly the same. I mean, the Oregon defense, the concern for me is Michigan State's still a solid enough three-point shooting team, and Oregon struggled to defend the three. Could be a bit of an issue for them here. And we've seen Oregon in pretty much every game where they've played someone of somewhat caliber. You know, they lose to UConn, blown out, lose to Houston by 10, blown out by Cal Irvine as 15.5-point favorites. So this, to me, is just a real tough one. I mean, with Michigan State shorthanded, two of their best players out, but Oregon not in the form you fully trust them either. But if I had to, I'd lean Oregon, but I think it's best to stay off.
There you have it. Let's review all college basketball action from Bobano, and you can catch him. There's so many more games on today's card, so much more work that you will see at 5 p.m. today when Bobano is alongside Connor Mack to break down this.
Actually, programming note, Dabby Cab's filling in for me today on that show at 5 p.m. That's just this show I knew would be longer with all the games. I got the hockey show after is going to be very long because of all the games. NBA Pub Up after that. So I deferred to Dabby Cab. So it'll be Dabby Cab and Connor Mack on Net Profit today.
Dabra Cadabra and Connor Mack today at 5 p.m. Bobano is on the USC Trojans +2 at -103. The over 146.5 in Don's Wildcats, staying off Duke Xavier. He's on Iowa State +6, off Iowa Clemson. Tennessee Volunteers, Kansas, he is off. He's on Seton Hall money line. UConn +1 at -102. Purdue +7.5 at -118. And I will be sitting with all of this information, and I will put out my college basketball as well after today's show. Bobano, spectacular work. That was a massive card we just hammered. Good luck, my friend, and have a great NHL show. Have a great NBA Pub Hub here at 4 p.m. And thank you for joining us. Any last words for the Capper Sport in the show?
That's the word. That's a big card today, folks. Lots of plays, lots of bets. So hopefully it all works out well, and hopefully it works out well for everyone in the chat. The best damn chat, best sports betting chat on the planet. Hit the like button. We appreciate it. And I'll be back for the NBA Pub Up at 4 p.m. Eastern. Have a great weekend, everybody. Good luck with all your bets and across all sports. Let's make some money. Good luck, everybody.
There he is, Bobano in the house. We move on to the NBA. Look, I got off to a horrific start. I've cashed 7 of my last 9 bets on this show. So I'm moving in the right direction. The record is still ugly. I started out last year ugly. I went down 17 units. Or actually, sorry, I went down 23 units before I ended up the season just under 18 units. And I'll end up in double-digit units. I beat NBA every year. The only year I didn't beat NBA publicly was the bubble year. And there's so many angles that are so easy for us to cash in NBA. And they will show their faces, and they showed their faces on Wednesday when we faded the Sixers off of that emotional victory over the Nets. We took their team total under, and we backed the Brooklyn Nets in Toronto. Things like that are going to pop up throughout the season. And I hate, we talk about the transparency and honesty being so important to us on the show. And sometimes the numbers are embarrassing. And that's the situation right now. And I will win my way out of this. 27 wins, 33 losses, hitting at 45%, down 9.25 units, ROI -15.42%, average line -110. Let's get to work, fellas. Saturated says so many games today. Sometimes these NBA slates are exhausting. Not for me. Hit 7 of my last 9, and I'm building confidence. Let's get right to work here. God, this is a worksheet. This is horrific with all these notes. Let's go. We start at 5 p.m. Eastern. Minnesota Timberwolves catching fire. 10-8, 5-3 on the road. Charlotte Hornets 5-14, 2-6 at home. We're at the Spectrum Center in Charlotte, North Carolina. Minnesota on this 5-game winning streak, playing at a pace over those 5 games of 101.9 possessions a game. Charlotte 2-3 over their last 5, playing at a pace of 99.65 possessions a game. Saying that they're 2-3 over their last 5 sounds a lot better than 2-11 over their last 13. Been tough without Ball in the lineup. He came back for a cup of coffee, hurt his ankle again on a fan sitting on the courtside. Charlotte opening up as 4-point dogs here. They're now 6-point dogs. This total opening up at 225 is now at 226. Let's go into the cash flow here for this one. And we have 1,922 tickets in. For those of you who are keeping track of the basketball teams with full line value, there's just 2 of them today. The Sacramento Kings and the Portland Trailblazers, which is surprising to want to have any interest in Portland. We'll get to that game. Here we're Minnesota, Charlotte. 78% of the tickets on Minnesota. 89% of the cash is on Minnesota. And they're having fun. And they're winning. 62% of the tickets are on the over, but just 48% of the cash. It has gone up 1 point. Wolves come in off their 5th straight win, 115-101 victory at Indiana on Wednesday. Charlotte snapped their 3-game losing streak with that 107-101 win at home that we talked about off the top over the Sixers on Wednesday. Hornets haven't won back-to-back games all year. Terry Rozier playing well, 20.4 points per game. He had 22 points in the Philadelphia game. He's loving the opportunity to get enormous amount of playing time with LaMelo Ball out of the lineup. I can understand anybody wanting to move on the Timberwolves with under 5 points. Do you want to move on them at 6? I don't know. Pace-wise, though, if Charlotte can dictate anything, I think this game goes under. I really do. They play. It's not just that they're playing at a pace of under 100 possessions a game. It's also that their outside shooting is so weak. Their perimeter defense is okay, but their outside shooting is so weak that I'm shocked that this total. I wish this total hadn't have gone up from 225 to 226. Trying to make the under even more appealing. You got to think with the Hornets at home that they're capable of dictating the pace, but the Timberwolves have the skill set advantage. If this total had gone from 225 to 224, I would be on the under. But if the books are going to make it easier for us to bet the under, I'm not going to fall into that trap here. And I've often found the Timberwolves totals are tricky, but God, I'm surprised that it's gone up a point. But maybe it's gone up a point because the public is on them here. I'm interested in the under. You have 62% of the tickets on the over, but it's 48% of the cash. We know what Charlotte does. And Charlotte's defense stepped up against the, beaten up Sixers squad. Andrew G says Timberwolves and the under for him. Thank you, Cody McJunkins, my guy. Lit Pick says back Charlotte last game, and now it's time to fade them 1-3 against the spread after a win. Because they rarely win. But I'm very interested in the under. And I think I probably pull the trigger. And then, this game's off in 3 hours and 38 minutes. You hope to see some movement towards that under. Let's move on to game 2 here on the card, 7 p.m. Eastern. Philadelphia 76ers 9-9, 3-4 on the road at Orlando Magic, 5-13, 4-5 at home. We're at the Amway Center in Orlando, Florida. Philly playing at a slower pace right now, 3-2 over the past 5, 99.9 possessions a game. Orlando is slower pace than that, 98.40 possessions a game, 1-4 over their past 5. Let's go into the line history here first and foremost, and get what the hell's going on. Here we go. Philadelphia opening up as 3.5 here. There were some 4.4s out there at some offshores, but Pinnacle opened it up this morning, 7:36 a.m. at plus 3.5. They are now plus 2.5. From a totals perspective, it opened up at 217 and is now 214. Craig Wood says Timberwolves made a concerted effort to get Gobert involved offensively. Would make sense for the same strategy with a juicy matchup against Plumlee. The Plumper. I like Plumlee. I like Plumlee, and I like Plumlee with unders because he's active and he battles and he can run the floor. So I'm comfortable with Plumlee, and I don't dislike him as a ball player. Let's talk about the cash flow for this. 1,563 tickets in. 70% of the tickets and 95% of the cash is on the Sixers, expecting a bounce back spot. 59% of tickets on the under. Wow. Sixers coming off their second loss in 3 games, 107-101 at Charlotte on Wednesday. With all the injuries that they're dealing with, especially with Harden and Maxey out in the backcourt, it's Shake Milton and Anthony Melton, and they love the opportunity to get this playing time. Milton coming off 22 points, 9 assists, and 7 boards. Melton, 20 points, 6 boards, and 4 steals. Embiid still out with that left mid-foot sprain, and Tobias Harris and Montrezl Harrell have to step up. And what do we know about Montrezl Harrell is that no teams want this guy, and I don't trust them at all. Magic come in off their second straight loss, 123-102 at Indiana on Monday. Indiana playing good basketball. This is a rested Magic squad. Franz Wagner scored 29 points in the loss to Indiana on Saturday, put up 20 in the loss on Monday, and Banchero is going to be back in the lineup. So he sat out a bunch of games with this sprained ankle, and we don't have confirmed that he's in. I just expect him to be in, and maybe this market move towards the Sixers is saying he won't be in. 23.5 points, 8.3 boards to start out his career. I don't want Philadelphia. And I guess the market is saying that you shouldn't want Orlando as a favorite. And I get that. But I don't want Philadelphia. And Turnsey says, play of the day, played Ottawa Senators at minus 130. Ottawa Senators at minus 130. Yeah, now up to minus 150. I was a little surprised that Bobano wanted the Ducks, because the market is setting it up for Ducks cash to come flying in. I can understand you liking the Senators, who've been awful in the first two games of this road trip, but are clearly better than they've looked. And Gibson coming off that magical game against the Rangers. I get it, Turnsey. I get it. I don't want the Sixers. And I don't want to go up against 95% of the cash on the Sixers. This is a magic or no bet. And I think I'd be pretty comfortable with no bet. This total 217 dropping to 214 makes perfect sense to me with the pace of play for these squads. Viper says the only two plays he's got locked in right now is Magic minus 2 and the under 219 in Knicks Portland. I did bet that under 6. Tell me it's a 0-0. 1-0. I'll take 1-0 Carolina. They'll play a strong defensive hockey. I'll take it. Okay, so Sixers Magic, I guess I'm not interested. I get why this total's gone from 217 down to 214, but I'm not interested. Let's move on to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Portland Trailblazers 10-8, 6-4 on the road at the New York Knicks, 9-9, 4-3 at home. We're at Madison Square Garden in New York. Portland 1-4 over their past 5. They've lost 4 straight games, playing a third straight game without Lillard. He's going to be out until the end of the month with this right calf strain, at least till the end of the month. And the Knicks are 3-2 over their past 5, playing at a pace of 99.7 possessions a game. Knicks snapped their 2-game losing streak in a 129-119 win at OKC on Monday. This is a rested group. Brunson coming off a season-high 34 points. And the Knicks struggle against teams that made the playoffs last year. They're 4-7 against such squads. But Portland, without Dame, is not a very appealing bet. Portland opening up here at plus 4.5. They're now down to plus 3.5. I'm pretty amazed that this would be a move towards Portland. This total opening up at 222 has dropped to 218, a big move to the under. Let's see if the cash correlates here. 2,055 tickets in, and I already told you off the top that Sports Insights has given Portland Trailblazers full line value here. 54% of the tickets, 64% of the cash is on the Portland Trailblazers, and that's enough to make me not move on the Knicks. Clearly here, it's Spenny penny bombs on Anthony Simons, points, rebounds, and assists. Sterling Gentry on Obi Toppin to drop 10 in this Knicks game. Justin McElvey on Simons over 24.5 says no Dame. Simons going to go hard at MSG. This is setting up. The market is setting it up to take tons of money on the Knicks. And if that's the only way you look, I do not think that you will succeed long-term betting against the Sharps. And I always push, if that's the side that you like, just don't bet it. Just stay off of it instead of trying to outsmart the Sharps or outsmart the advanced models, outsmart the MIT students. So I'm off of this game. I would have liked the under at 222. I get it at 218, but I'm not going to move on it after a 4-point move. Let's move on. 8 p.m. Eastern, Sacramento Kings, who had their 7-game winning streak snapped in 115-106 loss at Atlanta on Wednesday. 10-7, 4-4 on the road at the Celtics. 14-4, 7-1 at home. We're at TD Garden in Boston, Massachusetts. Both teams have won 4 of their last 5 games. Sacramento playing at the fastest pace in the league, 104.40 possessions a game, while Boston 4-1, 102.8 possessions a game. Both teams playing fast, and I've made the mistake of trying to get under Celtics games, and it's not worked. Let's take a look at the line history here first before we move on to the breakdown. Sacramento, Boston, we have Boston opening up at -8. They're now -7.5. From a totals perspective, it opened up at 235.5 and it shot up to 238.5. There's Nunya in the house. What is happening? Take a look at the cash flow for this one. We have back-to-back games where Sports Insights has indicated full line value on a team. They're doing that here with the Kings. 2,622 tickets in, 56% of the tickets. It just moved up from 53 just now. 56% of the tickets and 70% of the cash is on Sacramento, and the market has moved a half point towards them. 56% of the tickets on the over. So 115-106 loss at Atlanta on Wednesday. This is their third game in 4 nights. The Wednesday loss was the second half of a back-to-back, but this Kings team is playing good basketball, now 8-3 in November, and getting a chance to judge how good they are compared to this Celtics team that has been very, very good to start the year. De'Aaron Fox, 32 points at Memphis, held to 18 at Atlanta. Look, these back-to-backs are tough. Malik Monk looked good against Atlanta. They're both playing very well. Celtics bounced back from their surprise loss to the Bulls by beating up the Mavericks 125-112 on Wednesday. That loss to Chicago at Chicago snapped their 9-game winning streak. And it was a surprise. 121-107 loss. They lost pretty bad. Tatum, 37 points, 13 boards in that victory over the Mavericks. Brown, 31 points as well. I don't want to fade Boston, but you're probably getting the right number to do it. Do you want the Kings in their third game in 4 nights? Do you want that? Do you want them in the fourth quarter? I would say that the answer is no. I would say if you're going to back the Sacramento Kings, you want the Kings early. And I have no problem moving on it. Plus 4.5 in the first half of they're playing good basketball here. And why wouldn't they be ready to go early? So I'm very, very close. I think I pulled the trigger on it. Kings plus 4.5. First half, they're going to elevate their game against the Celtics. And the Celtics don't care that the Kings are in town. But you can imagine that the Celtics could wear down a team playing their third game in 4 nights. Will they do it early? I don't think so. I guess the Kings' first quarter would even be a look. That would be somewhat appealing. Let's just take a look at this. Kings not having to worry about Thanksgiving while the Celtics were at Thanksgiving dinners. Why wouldn't the Kings be live early here? Let's see what that number is for the first quarter. Plus 2.5. Kings first quarter plus 2.5. I like it. I'm going to move on it. I'm not going to take the first half. I'm not going to double up here, but I'll be on the Kings first quarter plus 2.5. Let's move on. 8 p.m. Eastern. Brooklyn Nets 9-10, 5-6 on the road at Indiana Pacers 10-7, 6-4 at home. We're at Gainbridge Fieldhouse in Indianapolis, Indiana. Brooklyn 3-2 over their past 5, playing at a pace at 101.1 possessions a game, while the Pacers are 4-1 over their past 5, playing at a pace of 99.9 possessions a game. Brooklyn comes in off their third win in 4 games. It was a very easy casher for us. 112.98 at Toronto on Wednesday. It was the first bet this year against my home squad, and who better to fade your home squad than you? Always remember that you know your team better than anybody else, and you know when they're vulnerable, and they were clearly vulnerable, and Brooklyn was in a perfect bounce back spot after the no-show against Philadelphia, and Jacques Vaughn is doing a decent job right now. The Brooklyn Nets open up at -3. They're now -3.5. This total opened up at 235.5 and has dropped to 233.5. The Pacers are playing at a pace under 100 possessions a game, so I can understand why that would move to the under. Nets are 7-5 since Vaughn replaced Steve Nash on November 1st. 34 second chance points and 23 offensive boards they allowed to the Sixers. And wow, that wasn't even to the Sixers. Wow, that was to the Raptors. Wow, I thought, man, the Raptors shot 7 of 29 from 3. They couldn't shoot. They couldn't hit threes. And if you read these stats, you're going to say, oh, Brooklyn was defending the perimeter with much, way better. I do not think that was the case. The Raptors are a beat up squad, and players who we counted on for offense last year, like Gary Trent Jr., are not delivering this year. So I do not think it was because Brooklyn all of a sudden started defending the perimeter with passion. I don't think anything to do with that. Kyrie Irving was excellent, though, and you win in a game where KD's held to 12 points. Pacers had their 5-game winning streak snapped in a 115-101 loss at home to Minnesota on Wednesday. The Pacers allowed 74 points in the paint to the Timberwolves. You got to think this is an angry Pacers squad. Do we really expect Brooklyn Nets to get on a roll right now? It's possible. It's possible, but I'm not going to sit here and want them. I mean, you have to think that this is a pretty decent spread for the Pacers. You have a Brooklyn Nets team that's 5-6 on the road against a Pacers team that's 6-4 at home and believing in themselves. The question is, I don't know what we're going to get from Brooklyn. I know what we're going to get from the Pacers, but I don't know what we're going to get from Brooklyn. There's Paul Taylor, the sailor, in the house. It's a Pacers or no bet. I understand why the total's dropped to 233.5. With Kyrie back and Kyrie playing well, I don't expect a fast pace. That under is probably the look. The Pacers are playing slower than they did at the beginning of the year. Let's just go back to the cash flow once more in this one. 35% of the tickets, 42% of the cash on Brooklyn. 36% of tickets, 94% of cash on the over, and it's dropped to 233.5. That tells you that the under is very live if they're going to keep dropping that total. I'm interested in the under. But probably not enough to pull the trigger. All right, let's move on. 8 p.m. Eastern, Washington Wizards 10-8, 3-4 on the road at Miami Heat 8-11, 7-4 at home. We are in Miami, Florida for this. Nunya says my first bet of the day is on the San Francisco Dons. Go get it, Nunya. Washington 3-2 over their past 5, 99.82 possessions a game, while Miami's pace 97.96 possessions a game. It's tricky to count on the pace from Miami dealing with all the injuries. But the one constant for the Heat has been Kyle Lowry, who's trying to make up for the disappointing season last year and even playing 46 games the year before for the Raptors. The Heat coming off, these two teams met, right, on Wednesday. And it was interesting because everything was telling us that Washington was more than capable of beating up on this broken down Heat squad. And we talked about it on the show that these players can step up amidst all these injuries. That's exactly what the Heat did in that 113-105 loss. Lowry, though, was the main focus. He put up 28 points in 35 minutes, 5 of 6 from 3, perfect from the line. They did it without Butler, without Max Strus, without Duncan Robinson. The Wizards were also without Bradley Beal with the quad contusion. Rui Hachimura was also out with the ankle injury, and Monte Morris also with an ankle injury, all out. Tyler Hero returned, and he put up 17 points in 29 minutes. He'd missed 8 games with a sprained ankle. He was just 6 of 15 from the floor. You can expect him to be better. And everybody talking about Nikola Jovic, the 19-year-old who looks very, very good. Let's take a look at the line history here. Morris and Hachimura are out for this. So Jordan Goodwin going to be at point and Kispert at forward. Let's take a look at the line history for this one. Pull it up here. Miami opening up at -3.5. That's where they stand right now. From a totals perspective, it opened up at 212, now at 213. Let's take a look at the cash flow here with Miami. 1,563 tickets in, 57% of tickets, 86% of the cash on the Wizards. 71% of tickets on the over. The Wizards were playing good ball. They were playing good ball until this happened, until this loss happened. Let's get a quick update here on Bradley Beal. Any chance of him returning? Bradley Beal injury report. See what we are dealing with here. Get any update of his status. Let's see what this is going to tell us. No, nothing. They're not giving us any kind of update right now. Look, I I like Washington to bounce back. I like taking the team that just lost in the previous game and didn't look good doing it. I like it. Are we going to expect Kyle Lowry to continue to hit 5 of 6 from 3? And is Tyler Hero going to turn it on after being out for 8 games? And I guess we need to know about Beal, but I think the Wizards are live. I think the Wizards are live here. I like taking the team that lost when you have back-to-back games in the same barn. So what would I get on the Wizards right now if I wanted them? Wizards plus 3.5. Clear sharp money on them. PG 00187 says this is a spot, and Beal did play in the shoot around here. Same with Monte Morris. Interesting. I want the Wizards. I want the Wizards here. I'm very thankful that we stayed off of them. Obviously, it would have been better to back the Heat in that game, but I'm happy that we stayed off of them. All right, Wizards plus 3.5 will be on my card. Let's move on. 8 p.m. Eastern. Atlanta Hawks 11-7, 4-4 on the road at Houston Rockets 3-14, 1-5 at home. Toyota Center in Houston, Texas. Atlanta 3-2. Last 5, playing at a pace of 101.58 possessions a game. The Rockets' pace is considerably slower this year than last year. 1-4 over their past 5, playing at a pace of 99.8 possessions a game. Last year, they were consistently in the top 5 or top 10 in pace. That's not happened this year. Let's take a look at the line history for Hawks, Rockets. Move over here and see what we are dealing with. We have the Rockets opening up at plus 6.5. They're now plus 8. From a total perspective, it opened up at 237.5 and has dropped all the way down to 232. Of course it has. That was way too high for these two teams, especially with the way the Rockets have been playing. Sterling Gentry said like Hawks to win, but didn't make a play on the game. Let's take a look at the cash flow here for this one. We have 69% of the tickets, 61% of the cash. So some big bets have come in on Houston. And then 79% of tickets on the under. I wonder if we could trust Houston at this number. Hawks coming off their second win over their past 3, 115-106 home victory over Sacramento on Wednesday. They're just 4-4 on the road. I mean, that was impressive, snapping the Kings 7-game winning streak. But look, the Kings were on the second half of a back-to-back. But Trae Young went off for 35 points, 11 of 19 shooting. Clint Capella had the double-double. So did DeAndre Hunter. Rockets coming off their second straight loss, a 127-120 setback at home to the Warriors. You know, Jabari Smith looked nice, man. 22.7 boards. And they're starting to have a bench. KJ Martin, Usman Garuba, and Terry Eason playing pretty well. Eason and Martin and KJ Martin combined for 31 points, 12 boards, and 4 steals. Starting to have a bench. Is this too many points? You tell me the Hawks are going to come in here sharp, and I guess I don't see how. I think 8's too many points. I really do. I think 8 is too many points. Is it a Rockets team that you expect? Avocado taking another double burger for Capello, double-double. Spending penny bombs on Jalen Green over 24.5 points at minus 110. And I have interest in the Rockets at this number at home against a team that's 4-4 on the road. Let's go over quickly the Rockets' last home games. 2-0 now, Carolina over Boston. Let's go over this just very quickly, and then we'll move past it here. Get these Rockets home games, take a look at them. They're not a team to trust, but they've only played 6 of their 17 games at home. And let's take a look here. So here we go. They lose to the Warriors by 7, lose to the Pacers by 8. They lose to the Clippers by 16 and then 8. Lose to the Jazz by 6. I guess it's probably right around where the line would be. Kane's on another power play. Uh-oh. All right, I guess this is probably a sharp number, I guess. Do we expect Trae Young and the boys to be sharp here in Houston? I'm going to need to spend more time on this, but I certainly lean to the Rockets. The Rockets are no bet for me. Let's move on. 8 p.m. Eastern, New Orleans Pelicans next up. 11-7, 5-4 on the road at Memphis Grizzlies. 10-8, 6-2 at home. We have the pimp slap play today. Iowa, Nebraska over 38 from our Mike M. Shout out to Mike M. pimp slap play of the day in business. We go to FedEx Forum here in Memphis, Tennessee. Both teams playing at a fast pace, faster. 101 possessions a game for the Pelicans, 4-1 over the past 5. And Memphis struggling without Desmond Bane in the lineup, 1-4 over the past 5, playing at a pace of 102.70 possessions a game. Pelicans coming off their second straight win, 129-110 in San Antonio on Wednesday. That was my only loss on the Wednesday card. Zion 32-11 dominated. It's no CJ McCollum, non-COVID illness against San Antonio, but we expect them back. Devontae Graham stepped up in a big way. He looked really good. Valanciunas dominated down low. I didn't expect him to dominate the way he did. Grizzlies coming off their second straight loss, 113-109 at home to the Kings on Tuesday. You got to think they're an angry group. Morant, 36 points. He'd missed that one game with a sprained ankle. 20 points in the fourth quarter. Tried to get them to win. And Jaren Jackson Jr. back in action. There's Ski Prophet in the house. What up, Ski? Let's take a look at the line history here in this one. Pelicans, Grizzlies, and see what we are dealing with. How angry are these Grizzlies? The Grizzlies open up as a 1-point dog in this spot, and they got all the way up to 2.5-point favorites, now sitting at 2-point favorites. From a total perspective, it opened up at 229 and has dropped to 227.5. And Ski Prophet on Ja, rebounds and assists over 13.5. He's not happy with this squad, 1-4 over their past 5. I think that's a great look, Ski. Thank you for sharing that with us. Going to copy and paste that, put that right here. And get this going here. And all right, let's discuss this some more. Pelicans, Grizzlies. See what's the cash flow. I imagine that it would be on Memphis here if they go from dog to favorite. And they have 71% of the tickets, 74% of the cash on these Grizzlies. 41% of the tickets, 76% of cash on the under. And we've seen it drop 1.5 points. Coin still leaning towards the under. At what point? The Grizzlies are 6-2 at home, and they're not succeeding right now. And you got to think that this is a spot where they, step up against a really tough Pelicans team. Remember, Pelicans are just 5-4 on the road. Lit Pick says liking Zion over 25.5 points at -130. Said missed the last meeting. I think he'll be eager to go in this matchup. Of course, the number 1 and number 2 overall picks from that draft class going at each other. Spending penny bombs on Ingram over 23.5 points and 25 plus, and Ja over 42.5 points, rebounds, and assists. Maybe a small triple double. I think let's just see what I would get this at if I was to bet this right now. And let me move over here. By the way, Timberwolves back down to 5-point favorites here. What's this Grizzly spot? 2.5. I prefer a 2. I'm interested in the Grizzlies. Pelicans coming off a soft victory at San Antonio against a weak team. Now they did beat them up. But I feel like the market is telling us that the Grizzlies are the spot. I mean, look at the difference in this money line. I guess there's not been a big difference. I take that back. Wow. Okay. But the Grizz got up to -141 at 9:56 this morning, being some buyback. There's our guy, Officer of 50, Ayash Yala, Robert Cherry in the house. All right. I'm interested in the Grizzlies. I'm likely to pull the trigger. Need to sit with it a little longer. 8 p.m. Eastern, Cleveland Cavaliers 12-6, 4-5 on the road at the Milwaukee Bucks, 12-5, 9-2 at home. There's Sun Dizzle in the house. Nice to have you back. Hope you had a great vacation. Sun Dizzle was in Belize and Honduras. That sounds nice, man. We're at Pfizer Forum for this. Cleveland 4-1 over their past 5, sweeping their homestand, 4-game homestand. 94.75 possessions a game. They're playing at a very slow pace. Milwaukee 2-3, 100.9 possessions a game over their past 5. Let's take a look at the line history here in Cavs Bucks. Move over here and take a gander. Cavs Bucks. This one's going to be good, man. Cavs open up at +3, move to 3.5, and then move to 4. From a totals perspective, it opened up at 216 and has dropped to 215.5. Boston going to begin the second with a 5-on-3 after the first 30 seconds of the second period. Still 2-0 Canes. Ooh, need them not to score, Billy. Need them not to score. Sun Dizzle says, can't wait for this game. Pfizer 4, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Let's take a look at the cash flow here. See what we are dealing with. 2,307 tickets in. 45% of the tickets, 73% of the cash on the Cavs. But the Cavs moved from 3 to 4. Then 74% of the tickets, 59% of the cash on the over. Nice sweep here for the Cavs on that homestand, coming off a 114-96 win over Portland. Donovan Mitchell goes for 34. Jared Allen, 24 and 13. Karis LeVert and Kevin Love banged up. LeVert dealing with a left ankle sprain, and Love dealing with a fractured right thumb. Love said he's going to play through the pain, but he's not looked good. And we already had our man Dan Kelly telling us that if you can ever get a player prop on the under in the spot to use it and to bet it, that's the player prop on Love. Bucks coming off their second loss in 3 games, 118-113 at home to the Bulls on Wednesday. You have to think that they are going to bounce back. Giannis did all he could, 36 points, 11 boards, 7 assists. Brooke playing really well, scored another 20 points, Drew 14 points and 11 assists. Wesley Matthews returned from missing 3 games with a hamstring injury, if that matters. You got to think that the Bucks bounce back, but the bigger bets have come in on Cleveland. I don't want to get in the way of Cleveland. I don't want to get in the way of them. Let's take in this total 216 to 215 and a half. I don't feel like I've got an edge here. The bigger bets are coming in on Cleveland. I expect Milwaukee to bounce back. I expect Milwaukee to bounce back early, but we are dealing with the day after Turkey.
We have changed, and now we are an England versus United States show. The game starts in 8 minutes, and I have a play in it. I am not from the Americas. Well, I'm not from America, the North one. I'm not from the United States. I have no, feelings towards this soccer team. Fun fact, the last time the United States and Venezuela played, Venezuela beat their ass 3-0. Whatever. England win this game 3-1. I'm taking the over 2.5. Got that right now at plus 104. Over 2.5 full game plus 104. And if you like laying the juice, hold on. If you like laying the juice, oh yeah. Uh-oh. Huh? If you like laying the juice like Peter Loshak, England team total over 1.5, minus 140. Come on, England!
Over 2.5. I like it. Wait, come back for a second, Jose. What was the juice that you got on the 2.5?
Plus 104.
Plus 104. There you go, Mr. Bouquet. Oh, 1 whole 2 fingers. Bouquet. On the over 2.5, the game pops up. Oh, look at this.
Yeah, I'm a little litty bop. I won't lie.
What a booze bag. Wild Hound, we got William in the house. He's saying 3-0. 3-0. England will win. Nunya on Baylor moneyline, Tulane moneyline, Arkansas moneyline, the Dons moneyline at plus 1176. Go get it, Nunya. All right, let's keep rolling here. Next up, I'm going to, you know what? And I apologize for my son crying in the background. The Bucks, this was an angle that worked. It worked last year. When the Bucks are playing against a good basketball team, when they need to show out, they do. And I think that the Bucks coming off a loss, knowing that the Cavs are a thorn in their side, I think the Bucks play well here in the first quarter. I think the Bucks fire out and bounce back from that loss as long as they're not too weighed down by Thanksgiving. This angle worked so well for me last year, and I'd like to go right back to the well. Will they give me a 1? They will. I'm going to take the Bucks first quarter -1. Bucks first quarter -1, -110. All right, let's move on. Next up for us, 8 p.m. Eastern. Chicago Bulls Oklahoma City Thunder. We're at Paycom Center in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Chicago 2-3 over their past 5, playing at the pace of 100.50 possessions a game. Oklahoma City 1-4 over their past 5, playing at the pace of 103.15 possessions a game. Bulls coming off their second straight win, 118-113 at Milwaukee on Wednesday. They really stepped up in that spot. DeRozan was a monster. Are they going to do that again in Oklahoma City in the quiet Chesapeake or Paycom now? I don't know. I don't know if they will. Let's take a look at the line history here in this one. Let's move over here. Bulls, Thunder, line history. We have the Thunder opening up at +2. They're now at +3. I mean, the market's telling you that the Bulls are going to come out flat after that huge win. Total at 235.5, now at 233. Let's take a look at the cash flow here in this one. Bulls, Bucks. Bulls, Thunder. 2,093 tickets in, 70% of the tickets, 93% of the cash on the Bulls. 36% of the tickets, 92% cash on the over. I tell you who I don't want. I don't want the Bulls. Justin McElvey on OKC +2.5. Son Dizzle says, here's the thing. You have LeVert out. Allen won't be able to contain Giannis. It's hard not to think they cover. I love that, Son Dizzle. I love it. Spenny penny bombs on Shea over 29.5 here. I don't know if I have the balls to bet the Thunder here. Let's dive in a little more here. Thunder coming off their third straight loss, 131-126 in overtime at home to Denver on Wednesday. They battle. This team just doesn't stop battling. They 19-point deficit, and all of a sudden they had a 15-point lead in the fourth quarter. Their defense is weak, and it's a problem. It's getting worse and worse sort of as the season goes on. Saying all that, I find it difficult to trust the Thunder here, but look at all the money on the Bulls makes you think that the public's going to get smoked. I'm not going to get in the way of it. I don't want involved in this game. I will cheer Justin McElvey on. Rand says the Bulls can hammer bad teams, but after going into Milwaukee and winning, now they have to turn it up again in a empty fucking Paycom Center. I don't know. Sterling Gentry says DeRozan and Levine to each get 4 assists, Dort 2 assists, and Bulls money line. All right, let's move on. Lake Show. 8 p.m. Eastern, Los Angeles Lakers 5-11, 0-6 on the road. At the San Antonio Spurs, 6-13, 3-6 at home. Is this the chance for the Lakers to get their first road win? AT&T Center in San Antonio, Texas. Lakers 3-2 over the past 5, playing at a pace of 102.8 possessions a game. If LeBron is back, and we assume LeBron is back, right? LeBron's going to be back here for this. I imagine he's back. He's not. He's going to affect the pace here. San Antonio 0-5, playing at the pace of 100.5 possessions game. Lakers had their 3-game winning streak snapped in a 115-105 loss to Phoenix on Tuesday. AD 37 points and 21 rebounds. I don't think that can. I know they're saying that everything's going to run through him even when LeBron's back, but I find that difficult to believe. The Lakers open up at -4. They're now -3.5. This total opens up at 228.5. It shot all the way to 232.5. We've heard from Nutflush Allen. Nutflush Allen's been betting team total overs against any team that's playing the Spurs, and it's been working very well. Let's take a look and see where the sharp action is with this one. Lakers, Spurs, 1,525 tickets in. They've given slight line value to the Lakers. 62% of tickets, 75% of the cash, and it moves a half point towards the Spurs. 41% of tickets, 74% cash on the over. Rand says Lakers scoring, never know with that high of a total. I don't want the Lakers, and I don't have the balls to back the Spurs. God, you want an 0-6 team that the 0-6 team on the road that the public is backing? I'm not going to go up against it, and I don't want the Spurs. I don't want to be involved in this basketball game. Sterling Gentry says Lakers money line just because Spurs not chasing championships at the moment. No, they certainly are not. Anunya moving on Colgate -6. Let's move on. We have 3 games left, and we'll put a bow on this show here. Next up for us, 9 p.m. Eastern, Detroit Pistons 5-15, 2-10 on the road at the Phoenix Suns, 11-6, 9-1 at home. They've been very good at home. Footprint Center in Phoenix, Arizona. Pistons are looking pretty good all of a sudden, coming off their second straight win, 125-116 at Utah on Wednesday. Suns coming off their second straight win, 115-105 at home over the Lakers on Tuesday. A rested Suns squad at home, day after Thanksgiving. I don't want it. I don't want it at all. Let's take a look at the line history here with this one. the Pistons, Suns. Pistons open up as 12.5-point dogs. The total, and that's where they are now. This total opened up at 227 and has dropped to 224. And let's take a look at the cash flow here. 50% of tickets, 82% of cash on the Pistons. I just kind of wish this would move a little bit towards the Pistons. It hasn't. It did actually. I take that back. It moved to 12 for a little bit. I would like a sign from the market that they're concerned that big bets have come in on the Pistons. Certainly, this is a Pistons or no bet. But do you trust? Sterling Gentry says, took Suns to win by 11 or more. The Pistons are playing good basketball right now. And you have to think the Suns at home, they cared about beating the Lakers. Now they come in the day after Thanksgiving and have to play against the Pistons squad that's playing pretty well. What would the Pistons be first quarter? Pistons early. Pistons first quarter is at +4. I like that. Like the Suns are going to come in alert the day after Thanksgiving. I like these road teams in the first quarter when we know the team they're playing just had a Thanksgiving in their home. Pistons first quarter +4. They're playing pretty good basketball right now. I'm going to move on it. Let's move on. 10 p.m. Eastern, Utah Jazz 12-8, 6-6 on the road at the Golden State Warriors, 9-10, 8-1 at home. We're at Chase Center in San Francisco, California. Utah 2-3 over their past 5, playing at a pace of 100.2 possessions a game. Warriors 3-2, playing at a pace of 103.1 possessions a game. Let's take a look at the line history here for Jazz Warriors. Jazz open up at +7, now at +8. This total opening up at 237.5 is now at 239.5. Jazz coming off that second straight loss, an ugly one, losing to the Pistons. Warriors coming off their second win in 3 games, beating up on the Clippers 124-107 at home. Let's take a look at the cash flow for this one. 1,677 tickets in, 43% of the tickets, 65% of the cash on the Jazz. And then 44% of tickets, 86% of cash on the over. This is a similar spot. This is a spot I like. You have the Jazz off a disappointing loss. They're on the road for Thanksgiving, so they don't need to worry about any of the bullshit that comes across with it. Why wouldn't they be ready to go here in the first quarter while the Warriors are sloppy? I'm liking these first quarters with these road teams against +2.5 Jazz first quarter. I like it. I think the Jazz bounce back. Jazz first quarter +2.5 for me. Let's move on to the final game on the board and the final game of our show. Denver Nuggets 11-7, 7-5 on the road at the Clippers 11-8, 6-4 at home. We're at Crypto.com in LA. Denver 2-3 over the past 5, playing at a very slow pace, 95.41 possessions a game. The Clippers also playing that very slow pace, 97.5 possessions a game, 3-2 over those 5. Nuggets coming off their second win in 3 games, 131-126 in overtime at OKC. Not a trustworthy squad right now. Let's see what we're getting here. We have Denver coming in as 1.5-point favorites, now 3.5-point favorites. From a total perspective, it opened up at 221. Now we see 218.5. And cash-wise here, 72% of tickets, 98% of cash on the Nuggets. That is alarming. Let's take a look at what's going on here with the Clippers injury report. A must view here when you're dealing with this Clipper squad. By the way, Scotty Barnes ruled out for the Mavs game tomorrow. Rudy Gobert questionable tonight against Charlotte. That's the market move there. And I kind of want Rudy. You know what? I'm not going to be able to bet that under unless Rudy Gobert is sitting in the middle of the paint. Let's see what we're talking about. Clippers here. We have, of course, Paul George out. And let's see what Kawhi's news is here. Kawhi is out. So, of course, back to Nuggets with the Clippers dealing with Thanksgiving and not having their stars there in the lineup. Why wouldn't the Nuggets, who are actually playing better on the road than they are at home, take out these Clippers? I agree. I think the Nuggets are the spot. -3.5. Oh, Jackson's saying, wonder if Siakam could return tomorrow night. It's possible. It is possible. All right, let's review all action here for this big NBA card and everything. I'm not going to bet that under unless Rudy Gobert is in the paint. So that may or may not be on my card. Sixers Magic, I stayed off. Blazers Knicks, I stayed off. Kings first quarter plus 2.5. Nets Pacers, I'm off. Wizards plus 3.5. Full game. I'm not sure about the Rockets here. I'm not sure. Rockets plus 8. I don't know if I move on them. I'm interested in the Grizzlies. Ski Profit gave us Morant. Rebounds and assists over. Bucks first quarter -1. And Bulls Thunder, I'm off. Lakers Spurs, I'm off. Pistons first quarter +4. Jazz first quarter +2.5. And Nuggets -3.5. Big NBA card for me. Big NBA card. Let's review all action. Thank you guys so much for joining us on this Thanksgiving Friday. Let's review all action. Bobano gave us Tulane at even money and the over 44. Let's take a look at what's going on there and see what we are dealing with in college football. We have, let's see here, Tulane up 13-10 with 12 minutes left, or 11 and a half minutes left in the third. So the over, it's possible. 3 points in the first quarter, but he got 20 in the second. So there is, that's the Tulane Cincinnati spot. He gave us Utah State plus 17, which really sounded like a nice spot. And a lot of the cappers in the chat were agreeing with it. Let's see what the score is there. Utah State down 21-7 at the half. Utah State down 21-7 at the half. Eastern Michigan +1 and the over 53. It is 2013 Eastern Michigan. 2013 just got a touchdown. 2013 Eastern Michigan. And then he gave us Western Michigan +9.5. I knew that was right. God, I should have just bet it during the show. Western Michigan +9.5. Then he's on Arizona -3.5 and the over 65.5. Nebraska +11. Missouri +3.5. I'm going to join him there. He's on over 61.5 and Cal +11.5. He's on Wyoming +15. I'm going to join him there and the over 50.5. In the NHL, I moved on the under 6 in Carolina, Boston. That game is on right now. Bobana moved on the over 6 and the Habs in the Montreal Canadiens, Chicago Blackhawks. Leafs, Wild, we stayed off. Bobano's on the Flames, and I like it. I do not trust Washington. Bobano's on the Ducks +130 and the over 6 at -125. It makes me very nervous. Clearly, the market put out a line where they're going to hammer the Ducks, and the market is moving towards the Senators. It's just Pittsburgh, Philly, it's just too big of a rivalry game to take such a big favorite. Sabres +144 for Bobano. I like it. And he's on the over 6.5 -125. I'll be on the Islanders -1. Bobano's on the over 6. And the spreadsheet play today from Rod Crawford was the Islanders in regulation. I'm going to be on the under 6 in Arizona, Detroit. Bobano's on the over 6 in St. Louis, Tampa. Bobano's on the Jets at +150. The Sharks team total over 2.5. And I will be on the Kings -1. In college basketball, Bobano is on USC +2.5. Let's move over there and see how that is looking. Here we go. Let's see how his college basketball is looking. This is taking a second. I apologize. Get this up here. Here we go. Okay, let's take a look at how he's doing. He's got USC +2 at -103, and USC is down 38-34. So in fine shape to deliver there. Fine shape to deliver there. Then he's got, starting 8 minutes ago, he's on the over 146.5 in Don's Wildcats. Next spot for him is he's on Iowa State +6. He's on Seton Hall money line. He's on UConn +1, Purdue +7.5. And that is our show. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Thank you guys to all of you who joined me last night for the triple header live bet streams. It was extremely enjoyable. My streak closed at the end. It's sadly.
I raged against the Patriots last night. I was very angry. Fuck the Patriots. Fuck them all. Wow. I hate them all.
Wow, that's beautifully put. Beautifully put.
Yeah, no problem. A top 5 loss in my career last weekend. Top 5.
Yeah, it's been tough, and I see you hitting the sauce to get over it. Now you respect.
Yep. I'm still not over it. Nasty. Every time I see Nasty, I love Nasty Nate. Love him to death. He's got big uncle energy. Every time I see Nasty Nate, I'm just reminded and I just get angry. But I still love him. But I'm just, every time I see Nasty Nate, I just get angry now.
He is a very easy man to love. Nasty
He
Nate.
is. He's a great guy. He's a great guy. But here's a lesson I learned. If you're on the dance floor with Nasty Nate, don't have water because he'll knock it out of your hands. You better have alcohol in your hands or he will knock it out of your hands if it's a water.
Oh man, this was a long 24 hours for me, man.
Yeah, no, you've had more hours on stream than off stream, I think.
Oh, it's been a battle, my friend. It's been a battle. But let's go out there and get that cash. I will see you guys next on Sunday morning for NFL Pub Hub. But we have a ton of shows here. Ton of shows. So don't forget, we have our big NBA Pub Hub show at 4 p.m. We have our college basketball show at 5 p.m. A lot of action here. And then Dabby Cab Razor Sharp Picks live for Florida State at 7:30 p.m. Jose, my man, let's put a bow on this. North Ender, much love to you. Travis Duarte, Nunya, Andrew G, Billy Friedrich, Sterling Gentry, Nasty Nate, Big Daddy Boom, my man Leo Leon in the house. Jarek White, Rants, Vipe, Spenny Penny Bombs, Wild Hound, our guy William. Let's go watch some soccer.
Come on, England.
Let's go watch some soccer. Roll that shit like this. Just smoke it. Get that cash. Jose, can you leche us into the future, my friend?
Sure. Everyone, have a lovely evening. Go get those Black Friday deals. And speaking of them, Pub Sports Radio has 20% off right now across the whole entire shop. Go get some Pub Sports Radio merch on a Black Friday. Good little Christmas gift. Some pub rub can be found on the Pub Sports Radio website right now. Shout out to everyone watching. Shout out to C. Brady, by the way, swept on the Cappers contest last night. The Thanksgiving game, swept it. Very nice job by you, my man. And we'll see everyone very soon. I'll see you guys at 4 Eastern, 4 Central, actually 5 Eastern. That's the sauce talking. That was the sauce talking.
Beautiful.
And we'll fucking leche los bootleggers. Shout out to everyone. And we'll see you guys soon.